welcome to Freedom, Speech, and You. I'm Ken, your host, and this is about as close as you can come to the time limit to start a video that is on Facebook. But most of you are on YouTube. Let's see where you are. Yep, most of you are on YouTube. We got one Twitch viewer. So, hey, good. Welcome, Nick Rich 56, Wes Webb, Trucker John, Tina Piazza, Aaron West. You're watching Face the Nation. Okay. If you can watch two things at one time, good for you. So here we are. We're here again this week. It is March the 12th where I am. It is 7:11 p.m. in Eastern Daylight Time. And hi, Aaron, number 2 there. Aaron, I'm Hold It, and Embezzler. So yeah, we got you all here. Time to start with topics. So I'll start with the light topic that's not politics, although it can be useful. So see if I can put this on. Probably can put it on the screen. I don't know how viewable it will be since it's coming from an email file. And no, it's going to be super ass tiny. See if I can scroll that over. I wish I knew what to do to make that go away, but there is like no way to make that go away. Not that I can tell. Let's see, can we scroll over still? Or is it beyond the ability to scroll? If I could get it down to like maybe 275 instead of 250. So where's the scroll bar? I lost the scroll bar when I made it that big. So let's see. There's the scroll bar. But read it or not be able to read it, what it says is, we have some fantastic news to share with you today. We're excited to announce we've added voice verification to our platform. This is Spoutable, making it more accessible to everyone, and users don't have to have cell phones now anymore, or if they have trouble receiving text messages, they can still enjoy Spoutable and all it has to offer. And they understand their platform is essential. They want to make sure everyone who wants to use it can use it. So they've implemented this new feature. And you can go to spoutable.com, spelled SPOUTIBLE.com, and follow the steps for phone verification. Please use the proper format. So you have to put in your country code. For the United States, that's +1. Then your 3-digit area code, then your 7 digits of the phone number that you were assigned. Hello, welcome ADM FLAG or RL8 and Shalom Man. So that's something new, because I know that some people said they did not join Spoutable because they didn't have a cell phone. So if you've been waiting to join Spoutable as an alternative to Twitter, there you go. So that's a quick one. Gotta open my email again because I closed too many windows. Forgot which window that was open. Okay. And also, see, we have 12 people here so far. So we have our usual group of people. Okay. This one, because it is a PBS video, I'm just going to show the video is stopped, and I'm going to talk about it. So let me maybe make that shareable. So this is something I saw on television the other day. This author, and she is I guess she is a regular doctor, and her name is Edith Eger, I believe is the way it's pronounced, Eger. And she talks about healing, forgiveness, and finding freedom. She is a Holocaust survivor. She was a young girl when she was in the concentration camps. And she talks about how to forgive people. So look her up. She was on Lewis Howes' show, and his show is called The School of Greatness. And you will find it most likely on your public broadcast station in your market. So check out The School of Greatness and watch that show. Watch that particular episode. You'll really enjoy it. She is really something to watch. Hang on a second, because this is the second time I've closed my browser for the email. Okay. Last time, Wes Webb had suggested a topic, which I want to get to as we start into the serious topics. So here comes the serious topics. We always like to start out the first few minutes of the show, giving everybody a chance to get in here and get situated before we get to the serious topics. And we're going to get inundated with ads and stuff, and subscribe and all that stuff, and advertising. But the article is by, let's see if we can make it bigger. It's by John Hanna and Tom Davies. And the article is entitled, as you can see, Business Backlash Pushing GOP to Weaken Anti-ESG Proposals. So let's see what an ESG proposal is, because it has something to do with pensions. And I did have an article about pensions, but it's not the one that Wes wanted to talk about. So this is the one that he wanted to talk about. So everything under the sun is popping up. Okay. So the article is written based in Topeka, Kansas. Conservative Republicans who want to thwart socially and environmentally conscious investing are being pushed to water down their proposals after backlash from powerful business groups and fears that state pension systems could see huge losses in both Kansas and Indiana, where the GOP has legislative supermajorities. Bankers associations and state chambers of commerce criticized the strongest versions of anti-ESG legislation under consideration as anti-free market. Well, I know what E is. E is environmentalism. I'm guessing S is for social. So let's figure out what G is from the article. Because I didn't have time when I was building this show today to throw in this last minute topic and know the word soup, ESG. So we'll learn together. In Kansas, their opposition has prompted a Senate committee's chair to drop the toughest version of its bill, applying any ESG rules to firms handling private investments before hearings began this past week. He also canceled a Thursday discussion of a milder version of an anti-ESG bill after the head of the state pension system for teachers and government workers warned it could see $3.6 billion in losses over 10 years if the bill was passed. Jim the Geek says, I've been watching my MSG intake for years. Monosodium glutamate, Jim, or Marjorie Stupid Green. MAGA area is trying to stop public pension funds from investing in socially conscious funds. Yes, I do know that it has to do with socially conscious funds. So, last month, legislative researchers in Indiana reported that its pension system expected the first version of a House bill to cost the system $6.7 billion over 10 years, prompting lawmakers to rewrite it before the chamber passed it. Yeah, okay, good. We get to find out. ESG stands for environmental. I had that figured out. Social and governance. And those factors increased use and investing in recent years inspired GOP attempts to thwart it. Now those efforts are rallying groups long allied with Republicans and backing less government regulation. This is the underlying political nature of this, said Byron McGanning, acting CEO and managing director for USSIF, the forum for responsible and sustainable investment. He continued, they really aren't thinking about the consequences of this kind of real world impacts of what this means in the financial system. No, they don't care one bit about how it affects the financial system. All they want to do is thwart anything that has to do with what the Democrats want. That's the goal of the GOP, is to not give the Democratic Party anything it wants. Right. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governments, and those factors increase use in investing in recent years inspired GOP to thwart it. Yeah. Environmental, I get. Social, I get. Governance, I guess that has to do with the difference between which government has control, whether it's the federal government or the local or the state. So I'm guessing that's what that means. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, Wes. But I'm guessing what that means is let's standardize everything in the federal government so that, you know, it's not possible for a state to have a different opinion. The Illinois State Constitution protects the independence of our pension board. Right. Gives your state the right to do what they want to do. Whereas the Republicans would like to do certain things at the federal level. They'd like to, at the federal level, you know, prevent any money from being spent on an environmental concern. So, yeah, I guess that's where it ties in, because if you're trying to control environmental and social issues and whether there's money invested in that, you can't do that if you can't control it at the federal government level. No cooperation is what a functioning government does. That's an interesting statement, Nick Rich. I think you need a comma after the no, because you're saying no to what they want to do, and cooperation is what a functioning government does. So I'm going to interpret it that way. About 1/8 of U.S. assets being professionally managed, or 8.4 trillion, are being managed in line with ESG principles, according to a report in December from USSIF, which promotes sustainable investing. Hello, Casper. Welcome. When will people learn that Trumpism doesn't work? It will destroy our country. When they realize that the source of information that's telling them that it is so wonderful is lying to them. At least 7 states, including Oklahoma, Texas, and West Virginia, enacted anti-ESG laws in the past 2 years. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida and Greg Gianforte of Montana also moved to ensure their state's funds aren't invested in ESG. No big surprise there. DeSantis, will never allow anything to be spent on that. Critics of ESG contend that using investments to move the U.S. away from fossil fuels, address gun violence, or protect abortion rights sacrifices earnings for investors and undercuts the financials of public pensions. So they're claiming that if we don't support fossil fuel, which is processed in the United States but comes from other places, addressing gun violence, how can they say that they're addressing gun violence as the GOP? They do nothing to address it. All they ever do is say, we want our guns, we want our guns. So, okay, yeah, they're saying that when the Democrats want to move away from fossil fuels, okay, I get it. When we want to do alternative energy, they're saying that undercuts earnings. But it's like the exact opposite, because getting away from fossil fuels would tend to support American businesses that make alternative energy. Addressing gun violence, keeping people alive, would again make sure that people could grow up, become adults, pay taxes, spend money. And protecting abortion rights means that people can have money and invest it and do things with it, instead of having so many kids they can't possibly invest any money or spend any money on anything, like get a new car when they'd like to get a new car, because they have to have all these kids that the Republicans want them to have. Yeah, they did exactly nothing after Sandy Hook. Social justice is not just gun laws. Exactly, Jim. Okay, here's a quotation mark. The agent who is represented or investing on behalf of the principal has a fiduciary duty to put the principal's interest over the agent's interests, says Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach, a conservative Republican, and he told this to the Senate committee. The principle is such a core of American law. All right, Chris, show me where it's actually losing money and that it's not going to make money. And don't quote me that it might lose money in the first year. Welcome back. Don't quote me that it might lose money in the first year, because every new money loses money in the first couple of years. Did I say that right? Every new business loses money in the first couple of years. Very few businesses make money in the first year or the second year. A lot of businesses go out of business, and it doesn't even matter if you're going into a business that is an established type business. You could still lose your money. That's the core of being an entrepreneur. That's the core of forming a corporation. You don't know if it's going to work. You could open something and it fails. That's the risk. Any ESG efforts also draw support from companies and industry that feel under attack, such as oil and natural gas producers. During an Indiana House Committee hearing last month, lawmakers heard a litany of complaints from businesses, including those in coal mining and firearms production, about difficulties they blame on corporate ESG policies. Okay, here we come with another quote by a Republican. This is, again, a social agenda chasing something they shouldn't be chasing, says Kansas Senate Committee Chair Mike Thompson, a Kansas City area Republican who labels ESG investments as potentially dangerous. Potentially dangerous? The nature of investment is potentially dangerous. To invest is to risk. Hello? Do you not remember what happened after? I think it pretty much happened after 9/11. There was money invested in a company, in like 401k money or 403b money. I think it was Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley, forgive me if it wasn't you, but I'm pretty sure it was you. Money invested in a company in 401k or 403b plans. And they had these investments. And the investments basically fell apart. It wasn't 2001. I think it was probably more around, was it 2008? Yeah, it was probably more around 2008 or so, because of the financial crisis that happened around 2008, when the money that was invested in home buying started to dry up. Anyway, the article continues. Public pension funds are caught in the debate as a big institutional investors. The Kansas system has 25 million in assets, and Indiana's has 45 billion. Excuse me, I said million, I meant to say billion, so 25 billion. NASRA, the association representing U.S. state pension fund administrators, opposes any move, including on either side of the ESG debate, away from making the security of the pension fund assets the paramount goal. So basically, the NASRA is saying we're the people who represent the people who actually invest the money, and we're telling you, Congress people, get the heck out of our system and let us do what we do. Let us manage the money. Jim says Biden is vetoing efforts by state or other governments who are trying to prohibit ESG investment principles. Yes. That's part of the reason why Wes wanted to talk about this. The other thing is Biden says he will veto, but he has not done so yet. It has been over a week since the bill was signed in reconciliation. Well, he doesn't have to rush into signing things. There's like no president that necessarily rushes into something unless the president wants to. I mean, obviously, if you're sitting on a bill that makes it possible for vaccines to be paid for, you don't sit on a bill like that. But when you have a bill that controls these things and it can't go anywhere without his signature, he can sit on it if he wants and try to negotiate with them to change the bill or send it back, do whatever. He can tell them he's going to veto it, or he can just make them sweat over it, which he probably enjoys doing. In Kansas, Thompson scrambled Wednesday to set up behind-the-scenes talks to address the state's pension system concerns. His committee's top Democrat, Senator Aletha Faust-Godot of Wichita, said Thursday that she needs the pension system to sign off to consider voting for the bill. Its executive director, Ellen Conroy, testified that Kansas lawmakers' proposals are so broad that the state's pension system could hire or retain an investment manager who did anything in that ESG world. Pension system would have to fire them all, hire new ones, and likely settle for lower investment returns. Yes, mucking with the system is going to lower the investment returns, because when you invest in something, you take the money out and you go throw it somewhere else, you're going to lose by doing that. You're supposed to leave the money in the system, and you're supposed to let the system do its thing, and you're supposed to watch the earnings go up, and then you're supposed to know when to get out. You're not supposed to be ripped out of there by politics. Doesn't help when Republicans are constantly helping out the rich while completely ignoring the small business owner. It doesn't indeed. Invest in rubles-based crypto or spend to eat. No crypto. Kansas City area Republicans are potentially dangerous. Mm-hmm. McCarthy knows he doesn't have the votes to override. Probably not. Or we would have done it if they were so eager. But don't discount the fact, Wes, that it's also possible that the only purpose of them even passing the bill is political. We wanted to do this to get rid of your quote unquote woke policies, and that's all they might care about. So just have to see. This article says similar concerns played out over Indiana, but pension system there backed off its figure for estimated losses after House members revised their bill. Supporters say ESG isn't about boycotting certain industries or companies, but of doing a better job assessing future risks, such as costs from major accidents or pollution or diminishing local water supply. Okay, so supporters are saying that they're trying to get rid of pollution by reducing our dependence on oil, trying to protect the water supply. They argue that considering such factors is part of the investment manager's obligation to get the best returns possible. But the Republicans said it's just the latest moral panic that's been invented to get the conservatives riled up, said Kansas City area State Representative Ru Yi, the top Democrat on the Kansas House Committee dealing with the issue. In Kansas, the Bankers and Credit Union Association and the State Chamber of Commerce went from opposing the tougher version of the NESG legislation to being neutral on all or most of its milder cousin. In Indiana, the State Chamber endorsed the more limited version. So that's the end of that article. So West says exactly, and profits for Fossil Fuel and Weapons Corporation, they want to protect them because they donate a lot to campaign funds. Elizabeth, hi Elizabeth. They've been counting mythical sheep for so long, they fell asleep and need to be woke. West says corporations, Elizabeth says false prophets. Yep. West sent another one to me. So I don't know how this article differs. Let's just see if this has much different in it. It's on the same topic. Senate overturns federal rule on ESG investments. Biden vows to veto, by Christina Wilkie at CNBC. Says pretty much the same thing. So they wanted to overturn the Labor Department rule. Biden plans to veto. Republicans call it woke capitalism. Anything that reflects liberal political influence. It gives the vote count in here. The final vote count was 50 to 46. And Manchin and Tester voted for it, making it 50 to 46. Otherwise, it would be 48 to 48. He expects it to be his first veto, says the president. Okay, gets into details that the House version of this bill passed Tuesday with support of every Republican and one Democrat. Doesn't tell you which one. Republicans taking aim at what they call woke capitalism. I don't know that there's much more to it. Okay, speaking on Senate floor. Okay, so this has a statement by Chuck Schumer. Speaking on Senate floor Wednesday, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat New York, defended the Labor Department rule, which went into effect in November of last year. He said the following: "This isn't about ideological preference. It's about looking at the biggest picture possible for investors to minimize risk and maximize returns. Why shouldn't you look at the risk posed by increasingly volatile climate incidents?" Agree with him. Democrats noted that the Labor Department rule was voluntary, so it didn't require fund managers to actually do anything. The opposite is true of what the Republicans want to do. The Republicans want to say, you can't do this. And this is, the party of small government, as it calls itself. Well, it's not anymore, because if it doesn't like something, it wants to govern the heck out of it. An article details the fact that under the Trump administration, required managers of federally governed pension funds to limit their investment decisions only to what would generate the highest returns, effectively prohibiting them from considering other factors. Well, that gets back to what I said earlier. If all you care about, excuse me, if all you care about is the highest return in each year, and you're judging whether you should take an established industry, such as the petroleum industry, and invest in that, and you know from past experience that you're going to get a return in that. Plus, you know that, like right now, the fuel prices are higher because the demand has increased since 2020 to today. If all you care about is how much you're going to make in 1 year or even 2 years, then yeah, you could use the Trump rules and say, well, you can't invest in this thing that's going to lose money for 2 years. But if what you care about significantly is the environment and not having to spend a lot of federal money to clean up spills or these wrecks like the train incident with Norfolk Southern, then you want to lose the money for 2 years to get to a better place to spend on something that's environmental. And if you care about the rights of women and their ability to access abortion when they should be able to access it, when they should be able to make that choice, when they should most definitely be able to access it when they've been raped or the victim of incest, or when there's something involving the pregnancy that threatens the mother's life, or when they know that they're going to lose the child and they need to access health care that under the guidelines of the Republicans is deemed to be abortion and may be called abortion by the medical system, but everyone else knows as a D and C, then you need to be able to do that. You need to be able to fund that. And most specifically, why should you dictate the politics where the money can be spent for all of the people of the United States? When the only reason that the Republicans have what they have is because of the Electoral College and because of the structure of the Senate, which both favor their way of government. Because if we were voting strictly on popular vote, and if we were voting strictly on where people are, we probably wouldn't have we know we would not have had certain presidents. And we probably wouldn't have the stalemate that we have in the Senate many times. Republican critics of the Labor Department's new rule says it undermines 401k retirement funds by allowing investment managers to put ideological issues such as climate change ahead of investment returns. We said that already. This is a different quote, so I will go through this. The last thing we should do is encourage fiduciaries to make decisions with a lower rate of return for purely ideological reasons. Excuse me, Senator Mike Braun of Indiana, the Senate's lead sponsor of the bill. But isn't what you're doing your ideological reason? It's like over and over again. The only thing that matters to them is what they want. Just that's all. Gives me spots on my apple, but leave me the birds and the bees, please. Anyone from the South knows you have to show your face and look them in the eyes. The fossil fuel industry is making huge profits and buying back stocks. They're not rewarding their workers that have not added refinery capabilities, keeping fuel prices high. But their stock prices are soaring, yep. Trump supporters are like little grandeur who spoke on the news, starstruck. Yes, they are. They are indeed. West Webb quoting lyrics. Shalom Man says, I can't wait for 2024. Yep. Okay. I don't think the article said this. The NESG is boasted by a small array of conservative nonprofits and advocacy groups, many with ties to wealthy GOP political contributors and fossil fuel companies. Exactly. These nonprofits are the PACs that pay to elect the Republicans. And it gives some of the names. 1792 Exchange and Consumers Research have run ad campaigns criticizing top investment firms, including BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street for what they say is politically motivated investing. So there was more to that article. That was beneficial to have a second article, Wes. Thank you for both of those. I will use the ones that I pulled at the end of the show if I need to fill time. I want to get into this one right away. This one's gonna stir you up. Saw this one on Twitter today. Thanks to my fellow sparkler, Marcia House. And she says in her comment, what a callous dick. So the tweet is by the Montana Democratic Party. It says Senator Heyman describes how hard it was for a family to find senior care for a mother, but watch Republican Senator Tom McGilvray's callous response. Montana seniors deserve dignity in their sunset years, not contempt. So let me pause this. Expand it. I'm going to take myself out of the picture so you can hear only her and not the background noise from my.
So for 6 days, I provided full-time care for my mother while we tried to find a place for her. And I heard things from the managers, such as, well, gosh, one family had to take their family member to Idaho, and another family had to go to Ennis and then Billings. And we ultimately did find a spot for her only because someone passed away. We, as the state, to follow up with Senator Beard, need to take better care of our elderly. We need to make sure that families feel supported and that the system is in good shape. I beg of you, support this bill.
Senator McGilvery.
Mr. President, allow me a little latitude. I'm going to not quite speak to the bill, but I'm going to speak to it. I have a novel concept: buy long-term care insurance and take personal responsibility.
So that's his callous response. Go buy long-term care insurance, take personal responsibility. Doesn't even care that her mother had trouble getting into this place. She had to wait 6 days. That's already taken place. She's already in this system. So his solution is basically to her, fuck you. And if you didn't buy this insurance, fuck you, because you don't get anything. I hope they didn't buy insurance for him. No, I'm not really supposed to think that way, but really, honestly, would he be so eager if it was his family? Would he be so eager if it was involving him? Yeah, that man's an awful person. You're right on that, Casper. ADM FLA Girl 68 says, we found this out with my brother Todd. They wanted to send my brother as far away. Mind you, my brother had cerebral palsy, and they wanted to send him all the way to either Georgia or North Carolina. Yeah, that's not fair. Taking him from his family in Florida and sending him somewhere else. Jim says, let's provide that through Medicare. Nick Rich says, expletives, yes. Elizabeth says, Hex is from The Little Mermaid. It's not just the elderly, says ADM FLA Girl 38. It's also for people that are disabled, and they forget that. Yes, you don't always have an opportunity to get the insurance because you could be in a wreck and you could be in a place where the driver that hit you is uninsured and there's no money to ever pay for a settlement anyway. People buy long-term care insurance and stop paying for it before they need it all the time, losing the whole amount they paid in. Yep, I'm one of those people. But I do have money set away for retirement. As someone who had to deal with that recently, that makes me angry. I think I need to step away from the computer for a minute. By all means, take your time if you have to. Nick Ricks says callous expletive. Spent over a decade dealing with this, the misadventures of Shalom Man. Satan from the Bible. Yep. Jim, what did Jim say that ADM is agreeing to? Oh, agreeing to providing through Medicare. And Shalom is responding back to Wes. Okay. A lot of different things here. So I think I'll go to this one next. And before I put it on the screen, the preface for it is, the claim is FDA employees were outraged and how unsafe it was to expedite approving COVID vaccine. That's part of the claim. So where's my click? There we go. So Marcia again shared this one. That's how I found it. She says, and gives him a nickname, says, be prepared, folks. Dr. Rummy is going to try to blame President Biden for Yam Tits Operation Warp Speed. Ronnie Jackson of Texas says, FDA employees were outraged at how unsafe it was to expedite approving the COVID vaccine, but because of pressure from the White House, it was approved in record time. Who was in the White House when this was approved in record time? Yes, my friends, I remind you that the person in the White House with Operation Warp Speed was former President Trump. The next day, the DOD announced a mandate for every member. Biden wasn't following the science. Okay, Biden may have announced the mandate when the vaccine was available, and it was only for members of the Department of Defense, which is his right as president to do so. But the person who got the stuff through the system, who paid out of the government to get these vaccines to the system, was Trump.
Texas Congressman Ronnie Jackson is investigating this on the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic, and he joins us now. Congressman, Doctor, thanks for joining us. I know you've had a lot of work in this.
Going to stop this for a second. I took this out of order, but I'll stay with it because I went to this topic. I'm going to say, excuse me, I'm going to say that the nature of this and investigating the process by which COVID-19 vaccines got to the market, the process by which President Biden decided that members of the Department of Defense would have to take the vaccine, that government employees would have to take the vaccine. All of this, all of that process, even the fact that rushing the vaccine to market, which is what Trump did with Operation Warp Speed, all of this occurred in the past. So I'm going to mention something that relates to things occurring in the past. And I'm going to say that this dude is totally disingenuous for breaking with his party and talking about the past, because the other topic I'm going to discuss in a little bit says something about not going back to the past. Okay, back to the video.
Explain to us what we're seeing here.
Well, thanks, Joey. Well, the biggest thing here is that the Republicans have the majority now. We do have the Select Committee on Coronavirus we started. We're starting to get access to a lot of emails we didn't have. We have whistleblowers and witnesses that are coming forward. And one of the things that we're discovering here is the vaccine approval process in the Biden administration may have been driven for political reasons, not for safety reasons. What we see is that the Pfizer had requested an approval process for full approval of their vaccine, because remember, up until that point, it was being used kind of in experimental status under emergency use authorization. They wanted full approval. They applied for that in May of 2021. This is an approval process that normally...
It was ready to go. That's the point. People needed the vaccine. They needed the vaccine to continue to live. You can question it all you want, but it was ready to go.
normally takes 10 to 12 months. In July 16 of 2021, the FDA came back and said, we will give you an approval. We will start the approval process and we will expedite it so that they could do it potentially in 6 months, which is the shortest period possible, right? And so they had a stated approval date of January of 2022. Well, privately,
Again, we have, as a society, with our scientists, been studying mRNA vaccine technology before 2020 happened, before 2019 happened, before COVID-19 was even a thing. So you cannot measure just the time clock from the time you say you need to have a vaccine for COVID-19 to the time that it was developed, to the time it's released to the public, to the time it's approved for general use. You have to mention all the time, all the research leading up to that. So you can't say it was too short a time when you're going to discount all of the time that led up to that made it possible to do this. And you can't measure everything against the past because you just can't. You can't measure everything against the past because you're moving on, you're improving, your technology is getting better. This is the same methodology that Trump uses that says, I can't have lost the election because last time I won and I got this many votes and I won by this ratio. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't.
see these emails where they're saying they want it approved by September of 2021, which was way faster, 4 months faster than the expedited approval process and 8 months faster than the standard process. Well, there were people like Dr. Gruber, who, like you said, was the director of the vaccine the vaccine research and that program that was approved, that was responsible for approving it. She was running that program. She and other members of the FDA were up in arms. And we see all these emails where they're bantering back and forth and they're saying, hey, this is not safe. Remember, this is a vaccine that was being used under brand new technology. We had tons of data coming in, tons and tons of data. We had a lot of reports of vaccine-related injury and side effects that were coming in. So this was a behemoth of a request anyways to look at all this information.
If it's true that this was sped up and it kind of alludes to that and saying we can't do it, we can't speed it up anymore, which means it was sped up at some point, who sped it up?
Well, the Biden administration sped it up. The people from the EOP were pushing. The people from the EOP were pushing people at the FDA. Dr. Gruber actually resigned in protest because she said, "This is not how this process is supposed to work. We cannot review all this information in this short period of time. It's unsafe." And Joey, they had set the date for January of 2022. Mind you, the process didn't even start until July 16 of 2021. And after Dr. Gruber left, you know when they approved it? They approved it in August 23rd of 2021. 5 weeks after it started, 5 weeks after the process, it was approved in 5 weeks. It was supposed to take, initially 10 to 12 months and then 6 months with the expedite.
I think he took some of that Operation Warp Speed. He's talking super, super fast, isn't he, folks?
Process. Here's the kicker. Why did they do that? Because they had been talking for some period of time about vaccine mandates. The Biden administration knew that they were going to have a real problem trying to push vaccine mandates using a vaccine that was being administered under emergency use authorization. They'd already been talking about the military, about healthcare workers, and so that's what they did. The day after it was approved, on August the 24th, DoD Secretary mandated it for all members of the military, and CMS followed right after that. There's a lot here.
Well, it's hard to believe it's going to take decades for the American people or even Congress at large to see all of this information and how this vaccine was approved. I know that you've been grilling on that. Hopefully that's not the case. There's a bill going to the president now to get truth behind some of the origins of COVID. Hopefully the work that Republicans are doing in the House gets more of that transparency out. Dr. Congressman Ronny Jackson, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the work you're doing.
Decades? Not if Tucker Carlson gets a hold of it. You've seen, if you watched Hal Sparks recently, you've seen the Tucker Carlson video. What was it? 6,400 hours? What was the exact number? Somebody shoot it in the in the comments, but hundreds and hundreds of hours of tape of what happened in Jan 6. And Tucker Carlson boils it down to this little tape that is all squashed together, that shows you the narrative that he wants you to see. That's is jumbled up as something that you record for a TV show. I mean, if you could see how a TV show is recorded, how they record some action TV show, for instance, how they record this scene in this part of town and this scene in this part of town and this scene in that part of town, and you move all around miles, not blocks, but miles. That's pretty much how Tucker Carlson's video Jan 6 is put together. Just little snippets here, little snippets there, enough little information to put inside the heads of people who have an extremely short attention span to make them believe what they want to believe, and nothing more. And you saw how fast he was talking. I mean, he was adamant about getting his point across, even though he is completely wrong. So what are you talking about in chat? Nick says, I'm fully vaxxed. 1,300 or more hours? I thought it was 6,400, but maybe I'm just wanting to hear 6,400. Maybe it was 4,600. I'd have to go back and play that part of the video. Medium FLA Girl 38 says, no, dipshit, that's not what happened. Your fearless leader scrapped everything. Exactly. Trump scrapped everything. In the few years, when the next new virus comes out, we'll do the same thing. Exactly, Jim. And the same people will still not understand it. And Wes says variants were bred in the unvaccinated areas. That's part of the reason that the Chinese relaxed their lockdowns. Also, that people were revolting. Same people complaining about taking vaccines. Why do they care? They didn't take it. Elizabeth, because the GOP's dying, they didn't take their damn shot. There's not going to be enough people, to be elected. That's why. And now they're getting all scared. The thing about it is there are people that don't take the vaccine that get sick repeatedly, and yet they still, I don't know. It might have been 46,000. I just didn't want to over exaggerate, Nick. That's why I didn't say 46,000 up front, but I think that's the number I heard. Was that the one I wanted to do? She made a video. Where did I put that? Did I not send it? Looking for. Oh, okay. Yeah. This is the one I wanted to get to. I had wanted to get to this first, but we're close enough that you'll be able to understand my point. And I have to get this in a place where I can play it, because every time I play one of these, they have ads. Oops. I can't expand it until I put it on the screen. This is Senator Kramer on Meet the Press today with Chuck Todd. And Senator Kramer, you can see at the top, we should be talking about the border inflation and not January 6th. So he's going to give you his spiel on what he thinks about Jan 6. So, other mouse.
About January 6th, because there were just two different reactions to what we saw this week. Tucker Carlson said on his air about January 6th that a small percentage of them were hooligans, they committed vandalism, but the overwhelming majority weren't. They were peaceful, they were orderly and meek. These were not insurrectionists, they were sightseers. And then Vice President Mike Pence last night,
Hang on one
the Gridiron
second,
Dinner,
'cause
said this. Make no mistake about it.
What
What happened that day was a disgrace.
pause this. The captions are turned on, and the captions might get in the way of the graphics. So I'm going to turn the captions off.
January 6th, because there were just two different reactions to what we saw this week. Tucker Carlson said on his air about January 6th that a small percentage of them were hooligans, they committed vandalism, but the overwhelming majority weren't. They were peaceful, they were orderly and meek. These were not insurrectionists, they were sightseers. And then Vice President Mike Pence last night to the Gridiron Dinner said this. Make no mistake about it. What happened that day was a disgrace, and it mocks decency to portray it any other way. Where do you come down, on Tucker Carlson's side or on Mike Pence's side?
Well, first of all, both sides can be right rhetorically, but the problem is you know, a 4-hour stroll through the Capitol that's
There we go with the both sides stuff. Both sides can be right rhetorically. No, they cannot. When we're talking about insurrection, when we're talking about a group of people trying to destroy the United States of America and put Trump back in office to be a dictator, both sides can't be right. Only one side is right. And surprisingly, despite everything else he said, Pence is on the right side in that argument, as previously stated. And Tucker Carlson is most definitely on the wrong side.
marred by a half hour of rioting doesn't make it a peaceful protest. And nobody was supposed to be in the Capitol. So there's not a single person who's completely innocent of wrongdoing, but not everybody that day is at the same level of crime. 518, by the way, have confessed to committing crimes that day. 420 have been prosecuted and sentenced. So clearly it wasn't a peaceful protest. That's not to say that the vast majority of them don't have regret or they didn't understand the severity of what they were doing or the severity of what some other people are doing. I do think it's unfair to put them all in the same bucket. I've never felt like a democracy is actually in trouble. We survived a civil war.
Okay. He's trying to say that we Democrats put them all in the same bucket. I'm certain that there are Democrats who think that way. But the Jan 6 committee is not putting everybody in the same bucket. The Jan 6 committee brought people in, people who were willing to admit their guilt, people who are willing to testify what they see, what they saw, what happened. Some of those people were prosecuted for the crimes that they should be under our system of law. But certainly they didn't all get the worst treatment. Now, the people like the QAnon shaman, as he calls himself, or as he was nicknamed, because I don't remember his name. To me, his name doesn't matter one bit, because the moment he stepped in there and did what he did, he stopped being an American citizen and he gave up his right to call himself an American citizen, and he should be in jail for the rest of his life. Or he should be indebted to the country. He should be out there cleaning the streets of DC. If Trump wants to say, like he did last week, that somebody needs to clean the streets of DC because they're not clean enough, take those people that did what they did on Jan 6, the ones that have been deemed safe to be out again, that need to do their time, make them clean the streets. Make them work. Make them go clean the restrooms at the monuments. They wanted to shit on the building. They wanted to disgrace the People's House, the People's Senate. Make them clean up stuff. They didn't have to clean it up that day, but they should have to clean up from now on. What did he say just a moment ago? He was saying something a moment ago I also wanted to respond to, so I'm going to pull it back.
Actually in trouble. We survived a civil war. We're going to survive this as well. What frustrates me as much as anything, Chuck, is that we're talking about it again. Here we had the January 6th Commission wrap up its work, mostly people not caring or paying any attention. It was very partisan.
People not caring or paying attention. Hello! All the people I know, people I chat with, we were paying attention. We were watching. I mean, just go look at the ratings. The Nielsen ratings are there. If it was carried on radio, the Arbitron ratings are there. Go look at the ratings. Don't tell me the people didn't care. They did. His people didn't care. People that watch shows like Fox News, Right Side Broadcasting, you can name them all. So, I mean, they may not care. The people that vote for him may not care. His circle of friends don't care. But you and I care.
To say the least. And here we were moving forward. We should be talking about the southern border, as you were discussing earlier. We should be talking about China and the challenge it possesses, and talking about inflation and a budget.
We should be talking about the southern border. Yeah, we really should be. We should be wondering why so much money was spent on that border, and it only got worse. Because he can't show us. Trump can't show us. Trump's son can't show us. Not a single one of them can show video evidence of the wall being disassembled. So there's no evidence of a wall being disassembled, and now the quote unquote border is open. Show it. It's like this so-called Hunter Biden laptop doesn't exist. You can't show it. It doesn't exist. And he doesn't want to talk about Jan 6 because he says that's in the past. That's what I was getting to earlier. It's okay to not talk about Jan 6 in his eyes because, quote unquote, it's in the past. We're done with that. It's already resolved. Make it go away. But, oh, they want to talk about the vaccine. The vaccine is also in the past. And what happened, happened. But they want to talk about the past. Disingenuous. That's what it is.
That drives up deficits forever, and those are winning arguments for Republicans, not relitigating January 6, 2020.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel.
Okay, so that's got me going. Got you going because that was on Meet the Press today. That was something that I definitely saw today, and I was like, oh, I got to have that video. I was like, that's really what's what. So as long as we're on the subject of Jan 6, Junior has a bizarre new theory that the Jan 6 pipe bomber was something. Let's see Donald Trump Jr.'s bizarre new theory. It's time for the little bunny fuck you. Can't get that phrase out of my head. Make sure to watch Hal Sparks. You'll get even more wonderful, insightful stuff on his show. And that's where I get the title, Little Benny Fuck You, for this gesture that Junior does. Junior has a bizarre new theory that January 6th pipe bomber was a plant by Democrats, saying that was just a backup plan if there wasn't enough insurrection created. Don't believe me? Watch the video. I'll take myself out.
They had the insurrection narrative. You notice how the bombers at the DNC and at the RNC, the guy that left pipe bombs there, just sort of disappeared from the news. It's like, you know what? In case there wasn't an insurrection or there wasn't something bad at the Capitol, they had that to fall back on to continue and perpetuate the evil narrative of what was going on that day. But since they were able to create and apparently manipulate footage of that day, as well as just have enough outrage cycle and run with it, we can forget about the bomber. We don't really need that anymore. That was just sort of the backup.
Create and manipulate footage. They were able to create and manipulate footage. Who exactly was creating and manipulating footage, my good friends? Well, that would be Tucker Carlson, the guy that the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, gave unlimited access to the recordings, only to Tucker Carlson. So, Don Jr., if you want to talk about somebody manipulating footage, that would be your friend Tucker Carlson.
Plan if there wasn't enough insurrection created, in my mind, and that seems to be what has to have been done here. You see, they had the.
Yeah, there wasn't enough insurrection created in your mind, sir, and I'm being generous by calling you a sir, because there's just not enough in your mind to actually create such a thing. And thank God, or whatever you believe in, or thank goodness, thank the people that stood up for our country on January 6, 2021, that there wasn't enough fortitude, not enough resolve in the people that tried to commit an abomination on the United States, an insurrection. Seeing as how we're still talking about January 6th, some theorize that she might be a certain person who planted a certain device, but she was definitely involved. So how do we know that? Well, we have Tara Dublin to thank for that, because Tara Dublin pulls out this video for us of Marjorie Taylor Greene. So if you couldn't take it before when Junior was on, there'll probably be a few of you who have to mute during this as well. Why is that? I think so. What she's responding to is this: Matthew Perna committed suicide because of the extreme persecution he was undergoing by our own government. All he did was walk through open doors. But her claim, over 95% of Antifa and BLM rioters' charges were dropped. I will not vote for a two-tiered system. I'm not going to show you the thing that she's happening to. Can I go back to what I was on? Sorry, I lost it for a second. Study this while I get it. Do you think that Melania was the worst first lady in our lifetime? I will go get the video again. Okay. So Tara responds, Maggot Matthew Perna's blood is on your hands because you helped plot January 6th before you were ever sworn into office. And we know this because you told us, you traitorous seditious, Quntrag, Kuntrag, however you say that. Hopefully that's not too much for YouTube. But if it was, considering the party we're talking about, it would be worth what they might do to me. So anyway, what did she do on that day? I take you to the video.
Just finished with our meetings here at the White House this afternoon. We had a great planning session for our January 6th objection. We aren't going to let this election be stolen by Joe Biden and the Democrats. President Trump won by a landslide. Call your House reps, call your senators from your states. We've got to make sure they're on board, and we already have a lot of people engaged. Okay, stay tuned.
So that's what she did. She implicated herself as being associated with Jan 6. How nice of her. How very nice of her. I'm sure this is from our producer. Let's see what she has in mind. So this is from Glenn Kirshner. We thank Glenn Kirshner and Justice Matters for allowing us to use these videos nearly every week. Thank you, Glenn Kirshner. It says, please give this a watch. Representative Stilwell exposing the lawlessness and hypocrisy of Jim Jordan. Jordan unlawfully defied a congressional subpoena, but now whines about DOJ officials allegedly not fully complying with subpoenas. Jordan is a disgrace, an embarrassment to America. And on the video, Representative Stilwell put super rich. Jim Jordan held a hearing today on subpoena compliance, as he is still out of subpoena compliance for his role in the January 6th attack. So let's pause that, pull that back, expand it. I do not, there's nothing critical in there that I need to take myself off the screen. So
the chairman just referenced in the face of continued obstruction, and I think it's quite rich that we are talking about subpoena compliance under a chairman of the full committee who was absolutely out of subpoena compliance in the last Congress. So we're going to haul witnesses in here today and claim that they did not comply with subpoenas or requests. And that request is so rich because it's coming from a chairman who himself did not comply with the January 6th committee's request. So May 31, you see a letter sent to then Representative Jordan asking that he honor his subpoena. He was asked over and over and over, you were a witness to a crime. You were a witness to the greatest crime ever committed with the most criminals ever indicted in America. Will you help your country? Will you comply with that subpoena? No compliance, crickets. Absolute defiance of the subpoena. And because of that defiance, the chairman was referred, and it's still pending, to the House Ethics Committee. And why? Well, it's because he took an oath. And I want to have the congressional oath put up there, but the congressional oath mandates that members of Congress defend the Constitution without any mental reservation, or as it says on the slide, purpose of evasion. Not responding to a congressional subpoena is a direct purpose of evasion. So this is our chairman, hauling all us here, everyone here today, people at the Department of Justice, the Department of Education, who are doing important work to claim they are out of compliance when he himself is currently out of compliance. But I also want to go through what is being requested of the Department of Justice and the Department of Education, because they're actually in compliance. In fact, the first request that was sent to the Department of Justice followed, well, by the way, it didn't have a date on it as to when the compliance had to exist. Hundreds of documents were sent back. The request was so vague, it would be like typing in Google search, what is Earth? And the Department of Justice is saying, can you just be a little more specific and we will get you these documents? And they sent hundreds of documents back. And the claim here is that the Department of Justice has designated parents as domestic terrorists. You will see in the department's October 4, 2021 memo that they never used the phrase, from the Attorney General to anyone else in any of the documents produced, domestic terrorists, as a way to label parents. They are concerned, as local law enforcement is concerned, as state law enforcement is concerned, as federal law enforcement must be concerned, that threats are being carried out to local volunteers on school boards all over America. And apparently, the majority is here today to defend those who are making those threats. Taking time away from hanging out with the January 6th defendants at the DC jail, they're here today to defend threats like this. A threat that says, it is too bad that your mama is an ugly communist whore. If she doesn't quit or resign before the end of the year, we will kill her. But first, we will kill you. That was a threat sent to a child. These guys are defending that threat. They don't believe law enforcement has any business investigating that threat. I don't know what happened to the Republican Party that sided with law enforcement and law and order and public safety, but we're here today because they believe that threat is okay and no one in law enforcement should investigate it. Let's look at some of the other threats. We are coming after all of you. Traitors of America, a threat set to a school board member in Dublin, Ohio. This is why Hitler threw you C-word in a gas chamber. Anonymous threat sent to a school board member in Pennsylvania. These are the people you want to have this hearing for? You go and sympathize with the January 6th defendants. You're going to stand up for the people making these threats, and you're going to haul in people who are working hard for their country, and we're going to defend these people? Well, knock yourself out, because what you're going to find is they are doing nothing but protecting innocent volunteers across America who want to make sure our kids and the parent volunteers are safe in their school. But finally, I actually think when it comes to subpoena compliance, we should follow the Jim Jordan standard. Back in 2019, Jim Jordan and Elijah Cummings agreed a congressional subpoena is a powerful and coercive tool. It should be only used when attempts to reach an accommodation with the witness have reached an impasse, or when necessary to obtain certain sensitive information, such as financial information, or through a so-called friendly subpoena to protect a witness. This is the Jim Jordan standard, set back in 2019. Just like the subpoena he defied when the January 6th committee sent one to him, he's defying his own standard here today by not accepting what both departments are asking you to do, which is to be more specific in your requests, to meet with their staff and go through an accommodation process. So again, we can waste our time. You can stand with the January 6th terrorists. You can stand with the terrorists who made these threats. But if you're just a little more specific, I think you'll get everything you want from the witnesses we have here today. And I yield back.
Thank you, Congressman Stilwell. Boy, that was amazing. That was representing the people of the United States and their safety and their interests. Thank you, Glenn Kirshner, and thank you to our producer for bringing that to us. That was worth a whole entire show there, folks. That's your real government running the way it should. And it's reprehensible what Jim Jordan and people like him want to do. Absolutely reprehensible. We were talking about retirement earlier. So this is something that comes to us through me searching for things related to retirement. When Wes said he wanted to talk about retirement a week ago. This comes to us from the Recount. Got it by virtue of following Midas Touch. And Recount says, for people who are in their 20s, their life expectancy will probably be 85 to 90. Does it really make sense to allow someone who is in their 20s today to retire at 62, says Senator John Kennedy, Republican, Louisiana, on why we should talk about changes to Social Security and Medicare. And Midas Touch comments when they retweet this, to allow you to retire, who the hell do the Republicans think they are? Who indeed do they think they are? Who indeed do they think they are? You got to go secure a few things. Elizabeth, take care. Hope you get back. Who do they think they are deciding when you can retire? Because typically you've been able to retire at 62 if you needed to, if you want to forgo some of the money that you could have from the government, from Social Security, from Medicare. But if you're somebody that is invested, you should be able to retire when you want. Yeah, I dispute the assertion people will live that long too. I mean, after all, consider the world we live in with so many people, with bad drivers, with proliferation of guns, with cancer still very much a risk, and so many other things, a phrase I hate to use, so many other things nonetheless that could kill somebody, you know, different forms of viruses, leukemia, brain aneurysm, heart attack. We haven't exactly defied death yet. COVID-19 reduced life expectancy. It won't be the last virus they face in their lifetime, right? And COVID-19 gave a lot of people reduced bodily function. People who got it really didn't get their lungs back if they were losing their lungs and in intensive care. So this is his video. It looks like it's 29 seconds. There's more to this. There's a thread on this, so we'll watch the video, just see what he says. This is on Fox News.
I mean, the life expectancy of the average American right now is about 77 years old. For people who are in their 20s, their life expectancy will probably be 85 to 90. Does it really make sense to allow someone who's in their 20s today to retire at 62? Those are the kind of things that we should talk about. There are changes in Medicare we should talk about.
Why should you, somebody that's going to be dead when they retire, get to make those decisions? What's the thread? The thread. Let's see what the recounts thread shows. The recount says Kennedy may eventually be right, but for the record, life expectancy at birth in the United States declined nearly a year from 2020 to 2021. So they're writing what you said, Jim. That decline 77.0 to 76.1 took U.S. life expectancy at birth to its lowest level since 1996, and they used the CDC statistics. So he must have another audio clip here. This appears to be shorter. And I need to pull it back to its beginning.
There are a lot of things we could talk about, but President Biden has taken that issue totally off the table. He says he has fixed it in his budget, and that's nonsense. That's nonsense on a stick.
Nonsense on a stick. Okay, that was the title of it. Yeah, but if Trump had did it, you would have been perfectly for it. The recount continues. It should also be noted per the Social Security Administration, quote, you are entitled to full benefits when you reach your full retirement age. If you delay taking your benefits from full retirement age up to age 70, your benefit amount will increase. That's another thing you could probably expect them to do. If they make you retire at 70 or 80 or whatever, watch them get rid of this too. Watch them just say, well, now you're waiting to 70 and 80, so, we'll just give you the same thing. Diedrich Bader goes, keep them working in the field, basically. Bootstraps. Yeah, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Donna Sparkley says, many corporations fire employees at age 59, then hire young workers for less. Yes, they do, because they don't want to pay for the elderly workers medical care. Finding new work making near what you did is near impossible. Leave Social Security alone, but remove the cap. If 1% of USA owns 80% of the dollars, then they should pay on their income like the rest of America. Yes, I agree, Donna. Dr. Michelle Hennessy says, on the same thought, life expectancy was 38 when Constitution was written. Does it really make sense to allow lifetime appointments for SCOTUS judges probably living 85 to 90? No, it doesn't. Unless, of course, they're really smart people who really understand the Constitution. ST Rogers says, that's fine. Let's completely deal with congressional retirement. Let them have 401k and Social Security like everyone else. Yes, if they had to live in this system like we do, they would think differently. Lord Munson says, allow. Funny how they call taking my money from me and deciding if and when I can have it back an entitlement. Yes, indeed. Social Security fund facts, says Wall Candy. Social Security and Medicare are paid for with separate tax. They add nothing to the national debt. Social Security has a $2.5 trillion surplus. Congress has borrowed trillions from Social Security to pay for government spending. So when Republicans say we need to cut Social Security in order to balance the federal budget, here's what they really mean. We've taken trillions from Social Security to pay for unfunded wars, tax cuts for the rich, and corporate subsidies. We need to cut your benefits so we won't have to pay it back. Bingo, 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 bingo. No lifetime SCOTUS, says the chat room. Oh, this is hilarious. The wise one says to John Kennedy, we want you to retire. You're like the little old lady anyways. I was thinking he sounds like one of these people that used to be an actor that I don't know the name of. John Kennedy says, I'm not ready yet, but maybe you meant Senator John Kennedy, meaning you tagged the wrong person. Resisting tyranny says to the count, but she really means to reply to the senator. Interesting that you can make up laws like this that hurt others while you're very comfortable in your own home, and you wonder why people hate the Republican Party. Indeed. Distracted 56 responds also to the senator. How many jobs are as easy as yours with a staff to do everything? or offer health insurance as complete as yours, or endless sick recovery days. Go work at Walgreens for a week, full-time stocking shelves or the cash register. Try a laundromat or Home Depot. Then talk to us. Yes, Distracted 56. Matt Skywalker says, sadly, so if I have current Republican work proposals correct now, a person should start working at age 10 and work until they're at least 80. That sounds appealing. Oops, I missed appalling. Church lady. Well, isn't that special? Convict Trump at My Politics says, I'd love to see Senator Kennedy work as an iron worker, mason, pipe fitter, or any other physically tolling occupation at his age. By 62, the average human body can't physically keep up with the demands some of these occupations require. Yeah, let alone firefighter, EMT, nurse, farmer. You know, it just goes on and on and on. It's easy to be a guy that sits in a chair and talks to Fox News. It ain't so easy to go out and do some of these occupations. Ivory Tower, hashtag, yes. People used to retire in their 50s with full pension. GOP rules, start them when they're children, don't let them quit until they're dead and can't move except they're rich. Yep, I agree with you, Grace RN. You got it. That's what they want. It's like, it is. It's a resurgence of serfdom. Go work for us. If you manage to retire and you get something in the end, fine. If you don't, too bad. You work for us. You did what we needed you to do. That one's a long one I got to read. Let me do this one, I guess. So this comes to us by way of a tweet from our friend Kelly. Kelly tweeted out about this, and I went and found this. Kelly said that it's not looking good for Trump because the judge okays the use of the Access Hollywood tape. And this is the defamation trial. Basically, so got to make that bigger for you to see it, though. It's too big. You can probably possibly see the text now. Sorry that you have to see Trump. I wish I could move myself over his face. Judge okay's use of Access Hollywood tape in Trump defamation trial. The Manhattan judge also rejected Trump's effort to block the columnist E. Jean Carroll from using the testimony of two other women who previously accused him of sexual assault. Goodbye, picture of Trump. Articles by Erica Orden. Where was this? Politico. Okay, so it's a Politico article. Sorry, scrolled too fast. The longtime magazine columnist who accused former President Donald Trump from raping her in the 1990s can use the Access Hollywood tape as evidence at trial in her defamation case, a federal judge ruled on Friday. Manhattan judge rejected Trump's effort to block her from using the testimony of two other women who previously accused him of sexual assault. So that's a win for E. Jean Carroll, columnist. U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan wrote, a jury reasonably could find, even from Access Hollywood tape alone, that Mr. Trump admitted in the Access Hollywood tape that he, in fact, has had contact with women's genitalia in the past without their consent, or that he has attempted to do so. End quote. In the tape recording from 2005 that was widely scrutinized during the 2016 presidential campaign, Trump boasts, when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything. Though Carroll's 2019 lawsuit alleges only defamation, not sexual assault itself, Judge Kaplan found that in order to prevail on her libel claim, Ms. Carroll must prove that Trump sexually assaulted her. Without proving the underlying claim of sexual assault, the judge wrote, she cannot establish that Trump's charge that her story was a lie and hoax was false. So she's going to have some evidence or somebody to corroborate her claim. In November, Carroll also filed a second lawsuit in New York alleging defamation and battery under new state law. The 2019 lawsuit is set to go to trial in April. A judge hasn't ruled whether the two cases will be combined. I would think her attorney would not want these cases combined unless there was extenuating circumstances. Because if you combine the case and you mess up the case, you could get both charges thrown out. Whereas if you do it separately, you have two opportunities to get him. Trump has denied defaming or assaulting Carroll. His lawyer said, we maintain the utmost confidence that our client will be vindicated at the upcoming trial, said Alina Habala. She provided this statement on Friday. Is this dated recently? Yeah, it's dated the 11th or 10th. So she provided this statement on the 10th. Okay. Judge's ruling Friday will also permit Carroll to use the testimony of Jessica Leeds and Natasha Stoynoff, two women who alleged Trump assaulted them in years before he ran for office. Leeds alleged Trump groped her while they flew on an airplane together. Stoynoff alleged he sexually assaulted her while she was reporting a story for People magazine, and Trump has denied both claims. So that's the article, but that's good news for the plaintiff. Am I saying that correct? I probably shouldn't say that. Sometimes I get law terms confused. It's good news for the woman charging Trump with what he did, alleging that he did so. And we believe her and we do not believe him. And that's our right, our prerogative to believe her. Okay. Space. Got that story. This is something else about Trump. I think that the first one of these is down my list. Where did I do with that? Is there two pieces to this pie? Yeah, there's the first piece of the pie. Okay. Making you hungry by saying pie. This story will aggravate you for different reasons. This is an NPR investigation. It was heard on All Things Considered. It credits Courtney Flatt and Laura Sullivan. called The U.S. Made a Breakthrough Battery Discovery, then Gave the Technology to China. It is from August 3rd, but it was given to me today to read, and it is really something. It is heartbreaking in a way. When a group of engineers and researchers gathered in a warehouse, Mukilteo, Washington, 10 years ago, they knew they were onto something big. They scrounged up tables and chairs and cleared out space in the parking lot for experiments and got to work. They were building a battery, a vanadium redox flow battery, based on a design created by 24 U.S. scientists at a government lab. Batteries were about the size of a refrigerator, held enough energy to power a house, and could be used for decades. The engineers thought that people would put their money down. Thought they would put these devices down next to their air conditioners, attach solar panels to them, everyone living happily ever after off the grid. Well, they would have to put their money down and invest in it. So I wasn't too far away from what the article said. Said Chris Howard, one of the engineers who worked for the company, which was called Uni Energy. It was beyond promise. We were seeing it functioning as designed and as expected. Now, Tesla has battery technology, and you can get their solar panels. But I don't know how long they last because I haven't looked into that. I haven't invested in that. But I know that you can talk to people who do that. Westwoods is illegal in many places. Yeah, possibly, because there would probably be some people that would be afraid of the technology. Their battery technology most likely being the same as the technology in their cars. So probably just as volatile if the battery is short or have a defect in them. So I don't know if this is more effective than that. Because one of the reasons why you have, if you think back to a few years ago, we had the problem with the laptop batteries. You have to be really careful with those batteries. You can't destroy the integrity of the battery. So you can't allow it to get damaged or punctured into or bent or severe force put on it, because you'll impact the electrical plates inside, and you'll short one plate to another, effectively shorting out cells or a cell, and then it will heat up and warm up enough, it'll burn, it'll catch fire, it'll set the rest of it on fire because the rest of the material is not fire retardant. And in certain circumstances, even if you have something in there to shut the battery off when it overheats, you may have already bypassed that when you shorted the battery. And the batteries that were in phones, I forget which phone it was, it's immaterial which one it was, but the batteries that were in phones had the electrical plates too close together, and that's why they had to recall that one phone, because they were getting bent or damaged in people's pockets, and they were shorting together and catching on fire. So you have to be, when you say, Wes, they might not be illegal. See you later, Trucker John. When you say they might be illegal in some places, then there might be reasons for that, because they may not want those wanted batteries. And of course, there's a lot of people, as we mentioned earlier in the program, working against solar technology because it would put them out of business. And Jim is talking about our retirement thing. Many people who can't afford to retire are living too extravagantly. Yes, Jim, they are. Tesla has batteries that are excellent and can be plugged into your car system rather than the grid. Yeah. Teachers and cops have pensions. By the time we retire, we can hire replacements at half our salaries. They do have to pay the state for those of us who retire early, but they still win. Yes. They win if they get you out of the system quicker before they have to pick you. Which ones are lithium ones? You should be able to tell what type of battery it is and the specs for the ones, but it is the lithium that is the more dangerous. In fact, you cannot ship an item on an aircraft with a lithium battery. Obviously, I guess you can take a lithium battery in your laptop now, as long as it meets certain specifications. Obviously, you couldn't have a battery that was banned, but you can't normally ship things, boxes of lithium batteries on planes. Lithium batteries have to go by ground. And obviously on the sea, otherwise you wouldn't get them from other countries to here. So they were working on this battery. It was something wonderful that they had designed. It would have been a battery. They would have had these great batteries. They would have been built in America, but that's not what happened. Instead, the batteries becoming the next great American success story. The warehouse is now shuttered and empty. All the employees who worked there were laid off, and more than 5,200 miles away, a Chinese company is hard at work making the batteries in Dalian, China. Chinese company did not steal the technology. It was given to them by the U.S. Department of Energy, first in 2017. So who was president in 2017? I can play the Jeopardy music, but you know the answer. Donald Trump was president in 2017. So in 2017 as part of a sub-license, and later in 2021 as part of a license transfer. An investigation by NPR and Northwest News Network found the federal agency allowed the technology and jobs to move overseas, violating its own licensing rules while failing to intervene on behalf of U.S. workers in multiple instances. Now China has forged ahead, investing millions into cutting-edge green technology that was supposed to help keep the U.S. and its economy out front. Mining lithium's a dirty job, says Wes. They don't have so many restrictions in China, so China mines most of the lithium. Yes, dangerous and dirty thing. And you'll get like the lead acid batteries that are in the battery backups. And I see some of them come in from, they come in from Korea. Department of Energy officials, yes, Jim, I will finish the article. Department of Energy officials decline NPR's request for an interview to explain how the technology that costs U.S. taxpayers millions of dollars ended up in China after NPR sent department officials written questions outlining the timeline of events. Federal agency terminated a license with Chinese company Dalian Longyi Power Company Limited, and the DOE said that following in its statement, DOE takes American manufacturing obligations within its contracts extremely seriously. If DOE determines that a contractor who owns a DOE-funded patent or downstream license is in violation of its U.S. manufacturing obligations, the DOE will explore all legal remedies. Several U.S. companies have tried to get the license to make the batteries. The department is now conducting an internal review of the licensing of Vandium battery technology and whether this license and others have violated U.S. manufacturing requirements, the statement said. Forever Energy in Bellevue, Washington It's one of several U.S. companies that have been trying to get the license from the DOE to make the batteries. Johann Skibelski, Forever Energy's chief financial officer, has been trying to get a hold of the license for more than a year and called the department's decision to allow foreign manufacturing mind-boggling. I agree. She said, "This is technology made from taxpayer dollars. It was invented in a national lab. Now it's deployed in China and it's held in China. To say it's frustrating is an understatement." You got that right. The idea for the battery began in the basement of a government lab 3 hours southeast of Seattle called Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, which in 2006 had more than a couple dozen scientists. And they began to suspect that a special mix of acid and electrolyte could hold unusual amounts of energy without degrading. See, that's fascinating that they could make a mix of acid and electrolyte, because a lead acid battery, normal like battery that's in your car, non-Tesla car, what happens is the acid in there that's interacting with the electrolyte, the material, the stuff that you either add water to or has water in it when you get it, and the plates of the battery. The process of how it works is eating away at the electrodes. And so residue forms in the bottom of the battery. And the way you charge and discharge the battery has some effect on how quickly this happens, because you're heating up the battery. So eventually what happens is the electrodes either, bend or whatever, maybe due to heat. But most likely what happens is you just develop a residue at the bottom of the battery that eventually, after 3 years with modern batteries, or sooner, that residue builds up, the plates are there, and it builds up to a point where it shorts between the two plates, and that shorts out a cell inside your battery, and now you have what the auto technician is going to tell you is a dead cell, or more than one dead cell. If they've created something that can't do that can't age in that way, or can't age over decades of time, they've created a battery better than the old diehard that Sears used to have, or whatever its J.C. Penney equivalent was, because they had one too. I forget what theirs was called. So they've managed to create something that doesn't break down, which is amazing. It took 6 years and more than 15 million taxpayer dollars for the scientists to uncover what they believed was the perfect vanadium battery recipe. Others had made similar batteries with vanadium, but this mix was twice as powerful and did not appear to degrade the way cell phone batteries or even car batteries do. Yep. So that's what's going on with the show, So that's what's going on with the so it just shows me I had a missed caller. Somebody tried to, I guess, call the show. Didn't leave a message. Researchers found the battery is capable of charging and recharging for as long as 30 years. Wow. That is 6 times longer than the old diehards used to last. Impressive. I mean, could you imagine if you could put this in a car? Like if it could be used in a car, it probably can't be used in a car because it might have to be under certain temperatures. Gary Yang, the lead scientist on the project, said he was excited to see if he could make the batteries outside the lab. The lab encourages scientists to do just that in an effort to bring critical new technology in the marketplace. The lab and the U.S. government still hold the patents because U.S. taxpayers paid for the research. In 2012, Yang applied to DOE for a license to manufacture and sell the batteries. The agency issued the license, and Yang launched Uni Energy Technologies. He hired engineers and researchers, but he ran into trouble. He said he couldn't persuade the U.S. investors to come aboard. How sad. He has this wonderful new battery that would be great for our future, would make things environmentally better, stop filling up our landfills with whatever elements can't be recycled from these batteries that we currently use. And they didn't want to invest in it. I talked to almost all major investment banks. None of them wanted to invest in the batteries, Yang said, adding the banks wanted a return on their investments faster than batteries could turn a profit. Well, we mentioned this earlier. It's normal for a business to lose money for the first 2 years. If we're talking about an ordinary mom and pop business, his business might have lost money for more than 2 years because they might have had to invest so much capital just to get off the ground to build a manufacturing plant. He said a fellow scientist connected him with a Chinese businessman named Yanhai Liu and a company called Dalian Rong Power Company Limited, along with its parent company, and he jumped at the chance. To have them invest and even help manufacture the batteries. At first, Uni Energy Technologies did the bulk of the battery assembly inside the warehouse, but over the course of the next few years, more and more of the manufacturing and assembling began to shift to Rong Power, Chris Howard said. And in 2017, Yang formalized the relationship and granted Dalian Rong Power Company an official sublicense, allowing the company to make the batteries in China. Any company can choose to manufacture in China, but in this case, the rules are pretty clear. Yang's original license requires him to sell a certain number of batteries in the U.S. and says those batteries must be substantially manufactured here. Okay, so he moved the business to China to get it done. And then the government came back to him and said that you can't do that because you have to sell a certain number of them here and they have to be substantially manufactured here. In an interview, Yang acknowledged that he did not do that. Uni Energy Technologies sold a few batteries in the U.S., but not enough to meet the requirements. The ones it did sell, including the one instance the U.S. Navy, were made in China, but Yang said in all those years, neither the lab nor the department questioned him or raised any issues. So he tried to get his company off the ground, but he violated the rules, and that's why they took it away. In 2019, Howard said Uni Energy Technologies officials gathered all the engineers in the meeting room. Supervisors told them they would have to work in China for 4 months at a time. It was unclear, certainly to myself and other engineers, what the plan was. Now he works for this other company, Forever Energy. He acknowledges that he wanted these U.S. engineers to work in China, said Yang, but he says it was because he thought Rong Power could help teach them critical skills. Yang was born in China, but is a U.S. citizen, got his PhD at University of Connecticut. He wanted to manufacture entire battery in U.S., but U.S. does not have the supply chain required. He says China is more advanced when it comes to manufacturing and engineering utility scale batteries. Yeah, because we let them build up all these things so much. And, in some cases, we've built up all of their manufacturing technology after World War II. In this field, manufacturing engineering, China's ahead of the U.S. Many wouldn't believe it. He said he didn't send the battery and his engineers abroad to help China. He said the engineers in that country were helping Uni Energy Technologies employees and helping him get his batteries built. The news reports at the time show the moves were helping China. The Chinese government launched several large demonstration projects and announced billions of dollars in funding for large-scale vanadium batteries. As battery work took off in China, Yang was facing more financial trouble in the US, so he made a decision that would again keep the technology from staying in the US. In 2021, Yang transferred battery license to a European company based in Netherlands. Company Vandis Power told NPR it initially planned to continue making batteries in China and then would set up a factory in Germany, eventually hoping to manufacture in US. Said Olaf Plantenkamp, the company's founding partner. Vandis Power needed to manufacture batteries in Europe because the European Union has strict rules about where companies manufacture products. That's not surprising to me because the European Union has its own standards for cars and that sort of thing and what manufacturing. Plantenkamp said in the interview with the NPR, I have to be a European company, certainly a non-Chinese company in Europe. So we moved to Europe. Oops, too quickly. U.S. has these type of rules too. A transfer of a U.S. government license requires U.S. government approval so the manufacturing doesn't move overseas. U.S. lost significant jobs in recent years on things that it forged ahead on, such as solar panels, drones, and telecommunications equipment. Still, when UN Energy requested approval, it apparently had no trouble getting it. Well, that's what I was getting to earlier. When it requested approval in 2017, it had no trouble getting it. And Trump was president in 2017, and Trump was favorable toward China. So one could conclude that Trump made such policy possible. In July 7, 2021, a top official at Unit Energy Technologies emailed a government manager at the lab where the battery was created. Unit Energy officials said they were making a deal with Vandis, according to emails reviewed by NPR, and were going to transfer the license to Vandis. We're working to finalize a deal with Vandis Power and believe they have the right blend of technical expertise, said the email. Our transaction with Vandis is ready to go pending your approval. Government manager responded that he needed confirmation before transferring the license. He emailed a second employee at Unit Energy. Second employee responded an hour and a half later, and the license was transferred to Vandis Power. So the license was transferred there. Whether a manager or anyone else at the lab or Department of Energy thought to check during that hour and a half, or whether the Vandis Power was an American company or whether it intended to manufacture in U.S. is unclear. Vandis' own website said it planned to make the batteries in China. In response, department officials said they reviewed its transfer for compliance and said new rules put in place last summer by the Biden administration will close loopholes and keep more manufacturing here. But agency officials acknowledged that the rules often rely on good faith, which means if they don't say anything, the U.S. government may never know. This problem's plagued the department for years. In 2018, the Government Accountability Office found the DOE lacked resources to properly monitor its license, relied on antiquated computer systems, and didn't have consistent policies across its labs. In this case, it was the American company Forever Energy that raised concerns about the license with Unit Energy more than a year ago, and their CEO said she and others in the company repeatedly warned department officials that Unit Energy license was not in compliance. But NPR reviewed emails from the department that said that it was. And she questioned, how is it that the national lab did not require U.S. manufacturing? Not only is it a violation of the license, it's a violation to our country. Now that the DOE has revoked the license, she hopes that her company will be able to acquire it or obtain a similar license. They want to open their factory in Louisiana next year and begin manufacturing. She bristles at the idea that U.S. engineers aren't up to the challenge. She says that's hogwash. We're ready to go with this technology. CLC says it will be difficult for any American company at this point to catch up. Industry trade reports currently list the Chinese company as a top manufacturer of vanadium redox flow batteries worldwide. And she worries whether China will stop making the batteries once the American company is granted a right to start making them. Well, you can probably expect them to continue to compete with you. Since when does China really honor American laws? That may be unlikely. Chinese news reports say the country is about to bring online one of the largest battery farms the world's ever seen. Of course, they will. They'll compete with her company if she gets the rights. So, yeah, expect that to be really sad. It never should have been able to happen that way. If Trump administration had actually cared about that. Thank you. Please do hit the like. Please do subscribe. And please share this with your friends. So, just unknown caller. So, caller didn't leave a message. Don't know what the caller wanted to talk about. Got a couple more topics. We'll get to this one first. On this one, I have to keep the sound down because it has country music in it. And I would most definitely get a copyright violation. So I'm just going to talk over it. Videos from Mauve Reston with the Washington Post. I was able to find it with the help of Ron Filipowski's Twitter account because he retweeted it. Let's make sure that audio is down. It is. The description says, and I quote, DeSantis always draws the most diverse audiences for his events. The audio is still down. So this has country music in it, but you'll see just how non-diverse DeSantis' audience is. You see any diversity in this video? I don't. I see a bunch of white Anglo-Saxons. That was a quick and dirty one. Go back to my email here. Okay, we have that one. Space asteroid. We're going to talk about that. Talk about that. But first, we want to get one more politics one. Okay. Politics one. This one comes to us from fellow sparkler DI Baby Blue on Twitter, who says fact. And Christopher Webb tweeted this out. I'm just going to say it plain. Any Democrat who primaries President Biden is going to make an ass of themselves. I Am Politics Girl breaks it down, though. So this is I Am Politics Girl. And I'm going to let her talk. 3 minutes and 25 seconds, and I'm going to take myself out of the screen so you will not be distracted by.
Listen, Democrats, can we please stop talking about primarying Joe Biden? Who should run against Joe Biden? Will Democrats get behind Joe Biden? This many Democrats want an alternative to Joe Biden. Can we just not? The absolute last thing democracy needs right now is a Democratic primary. We're in late stage capitalism with a corrupt Supreme Court on a knife's edge between autocracy and democracy, and people want to spend $100 million to undermine our successful incumbent when the alternative is the twice impeached criminal ex-president or the man who is single-handedly turning Florida into a fascist dictatorship? Why? I know people are excited for fresh young leaders with bright new ideas, but those fresh young leaders will never get a chance if we don't protect democracy now. The fact is, Joe Biden has gotten more accomplished in 2 years than any president in the history of presidents. In an increasingly cynical world, Joe Biden is a decent man with an incredible staff who knows what he's doing and has thoughtful plans for the future of this country that include women's rights and gay rights and workers' rights and voters' rights and higher minimum wage and lower healthcare costs and environmental protections. It could be argued that the biggest reason democracy is winning in this David and Goliath story in Ukraine is because Joe Biden had the foreign policy experience and humility to gather world leaders together and build a coalition to support them. He can run on all of that. We don't need to replace him. We need to spend our time and money giving him a bigger majority in Congress so he can get even more accomplished. Yeah, he's old. He talks old. He's a goofy grandpa who says things like malarkey. Who cares? By every measurable metric, he's an excellent leader. If we didn't have lying propaganda networks and self-serving chaos agents constantly trying to sell us on the idea that he's some demented evil pedophile out to ruin the country, and you just looked at the facts of his presidency on paper, there would be zero debate he was doing a bang-up job. You don't spend $100 million undermining your own party to defeat someone who's doing a bang-up job. You run your successful sitting president and you spend the resources you would have spent on a primary building the infrastructure that will defeat your opposition. You know, the party who wants to take your vote and force you to have a baby and tell you what you can read and what you can teach and what you can know. The people passing laws to tell people how to dress and how to act and what they can do with their own bodies. The party calling for a national divorce and suggesting that maybe Democrats shouldn't get to vote at all. The party that wants to get rid of everything from Social Security to public schools, who have already passed laws to strip women of their rights and make trans people detransition and force private companies to toe their policy line. You don't give those people the gift of fighting amongst yourselves. You spend your time and money working to put down that fascist, authoritarian, white Christian nationalist uprising taking over half the country. Joe Biden is better than any alternative the Republicans could put up. So if you want to win, how you feel about him is irrelevant. We don't need a new presidential candidate in 2024. We need to keep the Senate and flip the House. We need to fill the states with AGs who believe in the rule of law and legislators who believe in democracy. We need to pay attention to our school boards. Our current president is successful and he can win. We need to pick our battles right now. And a Democratic primary, it just isn't one of them. Sorry, not sorry.
Hey, how you doing? Hang on one second while I put back in the earpieces in case I have to play another video. So I listened along with you even though I took my break while that was on, but I heard the same video you heard. So let's get some comments from you, comments from the audience. Let me take that out. How do you feel about the video you just saw? Yeah, sad that Republicans are doing that. Only 9,666 views. Spooky, yeah, maybe. Wes says Bernie took too long to concede to Hillary after it was certain she would win the nomination. He was a very poor loser no matter what he did after the primary. Sorry, Bernie bots. Yeah, but Bernie's voters wanted him to have a chance to talk. And I think if we had an old-fashioned convention and he had been able to have more of a talk at the convention. See, I really felt when Bernie ran against Hillary, if they had gone back to the old style convention where they actually had to nominate her and actually had to nominate him and maybe even nominate somebody else, and then she won at the convention the way that it used to go, then more of the voters that were for him would have endorsed her. And that might have pushed her over the top. The problem is the parties have both gotten to this point now where pretty much once you win the first 3 states, you're the front runner, unless something magical happens that you drop out of the limelight. And more importantly, if your campaign is endorsed by the party, which Hillary's campaign was, doesn't mean it shouldn't have been. She was absolutely right. She should have been the candidate. She should have won. But the party puts itself completely behind you. And they don't even want to consider Bernie. And there is a reason why they don't want to consider Bernie, because Bernie is an independent and a socialist. He becomes a Democrat in order to run because he knows he couldn't possibly win without becoming a Democrat in this current society. But the party doesn't like him because they know at some point he's going to be an independent again. Marianne Williams is not a viable candidate. She's selling books. Yes, more than likely, Wes. You have a Bernie action figure from 2016. I know people that really supported Bernie, and I know people that didn't want to vote for anybody but Bernie. And I understand their passion. I'm not mocking them. If you get anything from what I just said is mocking them, no, I'm not mocking them. I do think they should have been catered to by the party. I think that there should have really been a chance to they were close at the beginning, but Bernie was just not a party guy. Anyway, we got a bunch of things. Where are we in time-wise? Okay, we started at about 7:15-ish, 7:10-ish. Clock says we've gone 2 hours and 26 minutes, and we're into the 27th minute. So you at least half an hour more, and I'm certain I've got enough to talk about that. Talked about that already. We'll go back to that if we need to. Probably let's stick to the real topics and throw all the light stuff at the end because it's going to go fast. So this is a space topic. So WFLA News Channel 8 in Tampa, Florida says, what? NASA identifies new asteroid that can impact Earth in 2046. And that is a picture of it. And there's an article hidden under here. Article is by Devin Markham. It is posted today, updated today. Article is from News Nation. NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office, which, by the way, it is not, I think we said this before, it is not the responsibility of Space Force to defend the planet against asteroids. It is NASA's job. So if you don't want to get killed like the dinosaurs were killed by an asteroid, you want NASA to stay in business. NASA's Planetary Defense Coordinator Office announced it had been tracking a new asteroid which could potentially hit Earth on Valentine's Day. On Valentine's Day of 2046. Ooh-wee. That would really ruin somebody's day. I mean, it's bad enough to be hit, but on Valentine's Day, I mean, just imagine the implications there that not only do you not have love on Valentine's Day, but you get hit by this thing coming at you. Although they said there was a very small chance of impact, but they're going to watch it, and it's called 2023 DW. Okay. So 2023 DW is a conference that happened, I think, today. Let me see that. Let me search that. I mean, I could probably just click that and open it. It might even say it in the article, but I'm just going to pop that open. (2023 DW). So that when you pop that open, it talks about what it is. Get out something. Okay, we got a new item in from the producer too as well. So let me move that where it needs to be. Okay, so that's going over. But it has this chart in the essay, and it goes and talks about stuff. Now, I don't know if there's anything really of interest to you in this or not, but okay. I don't know if you can see that, but if you can see that, where it says here physical properties, in that second row there it says 50 meters in size. So that gives you a size of it. And for Americans who don't do metric, a meter is about 39 inches, 39.34 to be exact. So it's just to simplify the math, it's not exactly, but it's close to 200 inches long, or 2,000, it's 20,000 inches long. And so I think a meter is a little bit longer than a yard, if I remember correctly. Because a yard is 36 and a meter is 39.34. So it's about 50 yards long. So it's a little bit, if it's exactly 50 meters, they say approximately, but it's about half the distance across the football field, American football field. That's pretty big. Go back to sharing this article that we were referencing in regards to that. I think it's that one. Okay. Lots of ads in the article. Anyway, I reason I got off on that tangent is I saw 2023 DW. So let me put in 2023 DW conference. No, it's not coming up there. Not coming up. It's not. Maybe it's because I put it together the way they did. No, that's coming up other things. Maybe I need to put NASA in that search. Put NASA in there. Maybe I'll find. It's not coming up, so I'm gonna have to search it via Twitter, but I'll do that afterwards, and I'll answer my own internal question about whether they were talking about this today or whether that's coming up. Anyway, often when new objects are first discovered, it takes several weeks of data to reduce the uncertainties and adequately predict their orbits years into the future, says NASA Asteroid Watch on a tweet. NASA is giving 2023 DW a 1 in 560 chance of hitting Earth by February 14, 2046, and the ESA, the European Space Agency, gave it a slightly lesser chance, 1 in 625. And this puts it on the top spot of the ESA's risk list for near-Earth objects. So it's kind of good that we had this technology in development to stop a asteroid, because we may have to use it. Good news is there only one chance in 500 or so that will actually hit the Earth. But the bad news is we're sitting ducks. We are defenseless, said theoretical physicist and Professor Miko Kaku. We have absolutely no way to deflect or blow up an asteroid with our name on it. Well, they were trying to do things with deflecting asteroids. So, there's that. So, there's that, So I don't know why he's saying that. I mean, I guess he's saying that because they don't have an effective way to do it other than to launch a satellite, and possibly his concern is that this is so large that even the object that they used to deflect the small asteroid was not that big. So that, being the case is probably his concern. Hang on a second. Producer's sending more content. Always searching. Always making sure that I give you the most show possible. Kaku explained that in 2023, DW is a city buster capable of knocking out Washington, D.C. or London if it were to hit Earth. Okay, it's the size of a football field, but it could knock out D.C. or London. I presume because it would break into pieces, and pieces would hit buildings, and pieces would hit buildings with such force that they would, be akin to dropping a bomb on a building, even though it's a piece and not the whole thing. Because that's the thing. Like, I remember this story about, like, you can have a bolt drop off of a plane, and because it's falling so far from the aircraft that's in flight, that by the time it hits your vehicle and hits your vehicle glass, it can hit your vehicle glass and shatter going through. It's not like you holding the bolt in your hand and just dropping it on your roof or on your vehicle. You wouldn't even make a dent. But when it comes down from a high distance and there isn't much to stop it, the speed and force with which it hits your vehicle would be the problem. I mean, you think about last evening, they returned the SpaceX Dragon capsule to Earth, and it's coming in at a really high rate of speed. And it slows down by virtue of the fact that it has a heat shield, and that the heat dispersal and the atmosphere, and what that does is it goes through the atmosphere, slows it down, and then the chutes come out and slow it down the rest of the way, and then it lands on the water. But if you have an object like pieces of an asteroid coming down, pieces of an asteroid just going to keep coming down, heating up, breaking into pieces, continue to fall at the same rate of speed until they hit terminal velocity and stop. So that's the problem. Forbes reported that the asteroid is the only object that scientists are currently tracking that registers on the Torino scale, registering as one on the list, which means it is predicted to pass Earth with no unusual level of danger. So they expect it to go past Earth with no danger, but if they're wrong, or if something alters its path, some change in the heavens, then they're wrong and it hits Earth. Torino scale was created as a tool to communicate with asteroids' potential impact hazard to public, categorizing the likelihood and consequences of potential impact, according to NASA Center for Near-Earth Object Studies. Well, here's the thing. If you're going down the road and you knew you had a 1 in 500 chance of hitting that car that's barreling at you, wouldn't you want to get out of the way? Or 1 in 625 chance? Most of the time, if you're lucky, you're not somebody that is so hypersensitive to the risk that you're at. Now, what are we calling that? 2023 DW and ASA. I'm going to have to search on Twitter, or no, excuse me, on Facebook for what I'm thinking of. I saw regarding that. Okay. A couple more political ones before we get to the light stuff. So these are the latest political ones. I think I've moved them over. Move that one over. Got that one. Got it over. And somebody is calling my number. So is there somebody in chat that's trying to call my number, or we just have a prankster calling the number? Because I'm not set up to take calls. This is not one of those shows that's set to take up calls on a normal basis. I do take calls. You could leave a comment. I can listen to it later, but I'm not set up to take a live call. So if you thought that this was one of those shows, this is not one of those shows. It's not you, okay? It's probably just somebody who thinks that I do take live calls and they're trying to call in without arranging a call. So taking a call is more complicated. It means I have to change the software and leave the software available to take a call. And if applied improperly, it could mean that I would have an echo, which I don't want. Or you guys might have an echo. You gals might have an echo, so we don't need an echo. And caller, if you keep calling without me knowing who you are, I'm going to block you. That's what I'm going to do with you. So if you're calling to be an annoyance, you're going to get blocked. Okay, so this one is from JoJo from Jers. We're at level. We need to rewind. What does she say on her thing? I can't read it with it up, so I'll have to de-expand it and expand it to see what she said as a preface to it. Oh, she gets at him. She says, "No, Lord Farquaad of Florida. It's not because they like you." So let's see what he's talking about with this one.
Locker room gets you ready for the press, right? Because your teammates, if they like you a lot, they rip you all the time.
The way you know that people like you is if they're making fun of you.
So you really have concluded the press really likes you because they're always ripping you. Locker room gets you ready for the press, right? Because your teammates, if they like you a lot, they rip you all the time.
The way you know that people like you is if they're making fun of you.
So you really have concluded the press really likes you because.
Sorry, you saw that multiple times. So, Mr. Fox News there, I used to remember his name, thinks that that the press likes DeSantis because they rip on him like locker room talk. No, we don't like you, DeSantis. The people who come to your rallies like you, but they're in the minority. You've won by gerrymandering this state, but that's the only reason why you've won. This one's about Lauren Boebert. Oh, that one. Yeah, this one's a quickie one. So this one's just a quickie one. So Lauren Boebert says she's introduced her first bill of the 118th Congress. Congratulations, she finally introduced a bill. Her bill would defund Planned Parenthood. And Roshan Rinaldi says, narrator, her 17-year-old son just got a 15-year-old girl pregnant. I thought that I read that the girl was 14 years of age. So, that's that's what's going on. She is doing that. So, not sure if I have a related article to that or not. I think I looked over that earlier. I may have ruled out showing it. And I think the reason why I ruled out showing it is because the tweet that I saw about it was from another talk show host. And I know that talk show host would have a cow and would push a copyright violation on me if I used his content. So I didn't. We had those. I think we looked at that already. There's my thing. Okay. Last week we talked about the 3D printed rocket that was expected to be launched between last week's show and this week's show. And if you actually tuned in to watch that, hang on a second while I bring it up for presentation. If you tuned in to watch that, if you tuned in early in the week when they tried, they didn't get off the ground. And I think it was a quicker thing. Wasn't as well discussed. I don't remember all the details of that one. But Saturday's attempt, there were a number of times that they tried to launch the rocket. Yes, that's rape of a minor, says Benny Loco. That's absolutely correct. She's 14 years of age. So they tried to launch the Relativity Space Terran 1 rocket, which is a non-reusable test rocket. And the first time they didn't launch it, the first time they had to hold the rocket was because there was a range safety violation issue. I don't believe it says that in these series of tweets. But it says a quick breakdown of the reasons for aborts during terminal counts today. Yesterday. During abort number 1, now they're counting the first abort based on putting the propellant in the rocket and trying to launch it. They do not count the time that they knew they weren't going to launch it and they had to move the time up to a later time because somebody violated the range safety. So during abort 1, it was a corner case in the stage separation automation a few seconds before T0 that properly aborted at T.5 seconds. So whatever that means, because I'm not an astronaut and I'm not a person who builds rockets, but it aborted at T.5 seconds. On the screen, it looked like it was T0. Then the team pushed an update to the vehicle automation, successfully recycled the vehicle, and secured a new T0 time, which was an instantaneous window, given it was during the last minute of the launch window at 4 p.m. or 1600 Eastern Time. So during that, they had at T-minus 45 seconds, they had an automated abort on stage 2 fuel pressure, which was 1 pound per square inch low. So there were 1 pound per square inch below the required pressure. So they're going to try again. And on that, they said they'd know the window soon. They haven't actually launched this. They haven't actually committed to a launch date. There are launch estimates, I believe, of the 16th. So today is the 12th. So if they were to go by the 16th, you'll have to watch for me to put out a Facebook post and maybe share a community post on YouTube about this, or you'll have to look at my Twitter account for Freedom of Speech and You, or look at my other account for my other podcast, which I hope to get back to at some point soon, called Slightly Off Axis Podcast, with Axis spelled AXIS. Not the other word that sounds like it, not ACCESS, AXIS. And Slightly Off Axis is named because of the Earth itself being slightly off axis. So that's how to remember it. But that was the stuff about it. Did they talk about the other one? I mean, this is in their thread, so I have to get out of their thread. They talk about the previous abort. March 11th. A lot of really good photos here, by the way. This is John Krause's photo. This is Trevor Mollman's photo. You have the videos there. A bunch of ads in between here. March 11th. Okay. Did they talk about the one that was prior to that? There should be some here back. This is another photo by Trevor Mollman. He likes to take photos on the ground. He loves giving you those views from the ground. This is a sunrise. Very pretty, and that's by Micah Baylor. This gives you an idea of their engine size compared to a human. That's the engine being tested. That was when they gave out their, that's another John Krause photo. That was when they gave out their schedule for yesterday. Okay, on March 8th, it was scrubbed due to exceeding launch commit criteria limits for propellant thermal conditions on stage 2. Okay. That's a John Pisani photo. Okay. So they're using liquid natural gas. Was there more? Is there more written in there? No, it just says they were checking back. And there's some intervening things. But yeah, that's about that rocket. Why am I so interested in that rocket? If you missed the discussion last week, it's a 3D printed rocket with 85% of the rocket being 3D printed, including the metal that constitutes the shell of the rocket. In fact, I should go to their website so you can see that. RELATIVITY space. Got to give it a second to load. It might come up faster if I'd have loaded it from. Okay, there it is. So I just have to scale that. I don't know that I can control how it plays. So hopefully it repeats itself. Or I can just reload the page and make it do that. So let's see, let's reload the page and make it do that. That's the rocket being printed. Pretty fascinating, isn't it? That's the rocket being moved. That's the engines. The engines did fire up yesterday, by the way. You did see them fire up, but then they shut down because of not meeting the criteria. So yeah, pretty impressive. This is just a cool little photo from the recovery of SpaceX Crew 5. This is from one of the people that I follow who obviously grabbed this photo from the live stream, or SpaceX did, and she shared it. But I'm thinking she grabbed it from the live stream. Jamie Grow, Masters of Education, Alter Jamie on Twitter goes, how many years of leaping experience are required for this role? After rigging up the Dragon Endurance in preparation for being brought aboard the recovery vessel Shannon, a SpaceX team member leaps from the top of the capsule into the Gulf of Mexico. Oh, yeah, she does give the photo credit to NASA's Keegan Barber. So there's the crew member leaping off of the side of the capsule and into the water, because the crew member has to get up there and rig the rig the cables to lift it after they test it to make sure that it's physically safe. It's a pretty interesting job. Not one that I would want, though. So there is a tweet out there where Bob Cesca put, fuck standard time, we are a house divided. And he did that because Kimberly Johnson, his lover, put fuck daylight savings time using this meme. And the meme is a ripoff of a certain book by Digital Metal. YourChildhoodRuined.com in case you want to see more of their work. And I went to their website to get the full-size picture, which is why I was reading that off so that I could tell you what the tweet said and why I saw it, why I knew to use this. There it is. It says Nancy Drew Mystery Stores. It's obviously altered, but it says fuck daylight savings time. And Nancy Drew is like got a clock. So I think the original book has something to do with hey Aaron. The original book has something to do with you know, a clock, obviously, because the artistry is not made up, but somebody really had fun either redrawing it or whatever, and it's just hilarious. And Kimberly Johnson had put that out on her tweet, and and her lover had disagreed with her, both of which of those are liberal talk show hosts, which we know from their appearance on their own shows and other shows. This also is about daylight savings time. This is from Rocky Mountain Mike. For those of you who listen to Stephanie Miller's show. You'll recognize his parody songs. Rocky Mountain Mike says he'd hate to have this job. Says, I'd hate to have to work here. And you can see those are all clocks and artwork. And you can't very well change a clock that's an artwork. So if you have a sense of OCD, but it's just funny. It's cool for daylight savings time. That's part of the interesting, funny ones for today. There's a couple articles about pain. I don't know if any of you are watching the Oscars. We're missing the Oscars, but oh well. We'll see all the highlights tomorrow. But this is something that would be on the Oscars tonight. Somebody in costume. And you might recognize her. And she is in costume as a famous person. I need to scale it because it is too big. So hang on. I can't display it like that. I need to go back to 100%. And I will not play you the audio for this because if I do, I will be in a copyright violation. So yeah, it's scaled now. Okay, now I just need to go back and put it as a share. So this is somebody tonight at the Oscars. This somebody is dressed up like Adele. You might recognize her. This is Jennifer Coolidge, actress. And she is in the movie American Pie. She's Stifler's mom. In the Two Broke Girls, she's the patron who always comes to the restaurant, who talks with a somewhat accent. In some other things, I think she's the voiceover, but I don't remember. But anyway, since I can't play you the music because the music is definitely Adele's music, what she says is instead of what Adele says, because Adele says hello when she sings. So when she comes, the Adele music plays, and she simply says, hi. So there's your voiceover as she says hi. So apparently she wanted to go to the Oscars tonight looking like Adele. And she got even the hairstylist to make her look like Adele. So had those stuff about pensions. I'm not sure about the music in this one. Yeah, we're past the 3-hour mark. I don't know about the copyrighted this one. It might be copyrighted in other countries. So I'm going to err on the side of caution and just tell you that it is not an American pop tune. And they are dancing to this. So let me scale it. It's scaled right. I just need to put it on. Okay. So these are California police officers. And if I temporarily pull it back and scale it up, I can show you what it says on it. California cops are enjoying the Natu Natu song Natu is everywhere. And I'm not sure what ethnicity that is. I guess we could look it up. In fact, let's do that. Natu. So we will. But they're enjoying the song. I don't want to break copyright, so I'm just going to let you imagine the song in your mind. And they're trying to learn how to dance it. And now they're watching him dance it, and the people on the street are dancing to it. And they're sort of getting it. He's getting it, but he's like studying what to do from his buddy. Now he's mimicking his buddy. And now they're going to get together with the gentleman on the street, and they're going to dance it together. So there they go. And they're just dancing on the street in their community. I would imagine they're community service cops. And like I said, I wish I could let you listen to the music, but if I do that, I got copyright violation and it's worldwide, then there goes our video. So N-A-A-T-U, Natu. Natu. What is the meaning of Natu? Natu means dance, so it simply translates to dance, and the chorus is a call to dance together, which is what they're doing. So they're dancing to a song that calls for people to dance together. And it's being performed tonight at the Oscars. So it's up against Applause is another title from Tell It Like a Woman, performed by Sophia Carson. It's up against Hold My Hand from Top Gun Maverick, performed by Lady Gaga. It's up against Lift Me Up from Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, performed by Rihanna. And up against This Is Life, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I guess I'm going to auto-complete that in my head. So it appears, I guess it's pre-independence in Delhi. Has something to do with that. So it must have something to do with Delhi's independence. Okay. Okay. This is one of the very first videos that I picked for tonight that wasn't a previous suggestion. Turn the sound back up for this one because it's just a person talking. And the Oscar for Best Acting in Wildlife category goes to this video that I'm about to present.
Yes, it's the hornbill that I was telling you about. Chase it away.
So I'll let it repeat.
Because it just pretended to be dead. Oh, that was amazing. How do I? that is hands down. And yes, it's the hornbill that I was telling you about. Chase it away. Because it just pretended to be dead. Oh, that was amazing.
Isn't that funny? It's truly funny. It's truly amazing.
How do I? that is hands down. And yes.
So that was pretty cool. I thought that would be fun for tonight's show. So where are we? There was an additional article that I could get into that I had for pensions. I wonder how old this article was. And it's making me wait a few seconds because it's trying to show me an ad. How old is this? I don't know because it puts an ad over the thing. But this isn't Government Executive. Oh, it's from October 13th. And it talks about cost of living increases. Because Wes, when you were saying you wanted to talk about pensions, I didn't know what you wanted to talk about. That's why I wrote back to you and asked you what you wanted to talk about. So this is just the article that I pulled up. Talks about civil service retirement system getting 8.7% increase. The federal employees retirement system only getting 7.7 this year. And it talks about how the second year in a row, federal retirees seeing their largest increase in benefit payments in decades. Gives the numbers again. Says it's tied to the annual change in consumer price index. And that this is the largest increase ever since 1981. Not surprisingly, it happened during Biden. And fostered by the previously run both houses, House and Senate being Democratic, no doubt. Last year, they got 5.9%. But the new employees are in the federal employee retirement system, which is similar to a 401k. And they only get 7.7. Says it's because it operates on extrapolation of Social Security and CSRS, the cost of living adjustment. So it ties itself to the CSRS. But at least they're getting increases. You wonder, will this happen in the next year with the Republicans? Will they cut all this? Will they make, make it go away? I don't know. Hopefully not. I had another article, but I'm sure it just says the same thing. Okay, the only difference, I think the only difference here is that this was NPR actually talking with Karine Jean-Pierre. So this is an audio recording of their interview with her. And they just go through all the same things. I don't know if you want to go through that or not. I guess we could quickly go through it and see if there's anything said in here that I don't recall us going through earlier. But it's about Biden using his veto authority for the first time. It's from March 2nd. It's from All Things Considered. It's authored by Tamara Keith. Talks about his chance to use the veto pen. Alicia Chang is the host, saying Biden is expected to use his veto authority for the first time. Press Secretary says a measure passed by both House and Senate to roll back Biden administration financial regulations bad for employees. She said this is unacceptable for the president, and that is why he will veto this bill if it comes to his desk. Then Chang introduces White House correspondent Tamara Keith, who talks to the context of this. Chang says Biden is more than 2 years into his term, and this is only his first veto. Remind us why it's taken so long. Keith says it's pretty simple. For the first 2 years in office, Democrats control both houses. It's quite rare for the party in power to pass legislation that a president from their own party doesn't agree with. But now you have a split party Congress. The measure was passed by the Republican-controlled House to reverse the Biden rule. And we know why, because it gets rid of the plan advisor's ability to support ESG. Then Chang asks, but why, with the Senate still controlled by Democrats, did they even take this up? And Keith responds, it's due to the Congressional Review Act. So basically, they can weigh in or block regulations that haven't gone into effect yet. So that's why they can pass this in the House, even though they only have the House. They can block him from doing it if it isn't voted on. Whereas if Senate signs on, then it goes to his desk, then he can veto it and block them. We know how they voted because we talked about that earlier. Then the host spoke with Sarah Binder, a professor at George Washington University. Sarah Binder said there really wasn't any stopping the Republican minority in the Senate, as long as they got those 2 Democratic votes to join them. And Keith says in a veto it will be. Chang says the same thing. What does this mean about the chances of more vetoes from Biden going forward now that Republicans control the House? Keith says there aren't a ton of bills that can get a fast track to the president's desk like this, so if Republicans can find more new regulations they want to repeal, can get a few more Democrats to support it, this could potentially happen again. You can see a trickle of votes from Biden, but don't expect the floodgates to open up. And part of that is just Congress isn't passing a lot of legislation because it's really hard to do anything with a split party control. In speeches, Biden's issued a lot of veto threats. Keith points out those are proposals that are highly unlikely to get to his desk. Things like repealing Social Security and Medicare or a national ban on abortion. Yeah, because they're content to just talk about it. They're content to try to paint Social Security as giving too much money to people that shouldn't have it. They'll always paint Social Security as going to people who can't possibly get it, but they're going to convince their voters that there are people that can get Social Security, as if people can walk over from Mexico, get into this country, and suddenly qualify for Social Security, which they can't possibly do. Because you, as an American citizen, have hard enough time getting Social Security that you do qualify for, especially if you need it for disability. Kang asks, how does Biden compare to other presidents in terms of his use of veto pen? I will say it's a turn of the phrase, says Keith. It's not an actual special pen. No way, yeah. They're laughing. It's not a special pen. It's a pen is a pen. The use of the veto pen is the use of the power of the pen to say no. But it could be any pen. It could be a big pen. It could be whatever. It could be a space pen. He doesn't actually sign the bill. He sends the formal veto back to Congress. You got to figure, though, in the past, it actually was the president like writing veto on it, maybe with a, a quill pen. We can look that up if we want. And then they talk about who vetoed bills in the first year of office. Carter Reagan, George Herbert Walker Bush, and President Obama. But for Clinton, Trump, and Biden, it didn't happen until after their party took a shellacking in the first midterm election. And that's the end of the article. So it was worthwhile to read that article, even though it was on the same subject, because it did give us a little bit more insight. I don't know if this is any different either. What year is this from? This is from December 28th of last year. This talks about pensions also. It says pensions were hammered in 2022 and this year will be worse. Says the stock market is responsible for it and the 2023 outlook is more grim. Wall Street's warning of financial carnage ahead. Governors overseeing large pension systems are bracing for hit to state investment funds that have long supported benefit plans and cash-strapped budgets. The longer the decline, the harder it gets for governments to pay retirement benefits promised to millions of teachers, cops, firefighters, and other workers in exchange for careers in public service. Now, Wes, you were saying that your Illinois state pension is backed up, that they can't take away from you what you're supposed to get. Is anyone else upset that two failed banks are being shored up? I guess I'm happy the depositors are okay, but the smells of capitalism when I profit, socialism when I fail. Depends means depends on what banks we're talking about and how they're funded. It does seem at times that we do tend to to help more about bailing the rich people. Yeah, I mean, the government has to bail out money sometimes. I mean, if it's FDIC insured, they have to bail that out. That there's plenty of investments that aren't. You know, there's plenty of things that are not backed up by FDIC. You kind of want people though that put money away themselves, that could only put money in a bank for savings to have their money, especially if they're putting that away for their retirement. But if the bank goes and throws money at Bitcoin or something like that, now I'll let Hal talk about the Bitcoin because he understands it a lot more. But yeah, I mean, it talks about Gavin Newsom, Pritzker of Illinois, Phil Murphy of New York, how much they pumped into their retirement systems, and that they've been putting state money into these programs to pump them up during these market swings. So, yeah, apparently those three governors are really working on doing things. And it's not surprising at times that things are underfunded by previous administrations. But the downside is when you prop up these retirement plans to keep retirees solvent, then you don't have money to spend on other things like schools and social programs and basic infrastructure. And the tax revenue is down because of the COVID slowdowns. And it gets worse when the investments don't hit the mark. Rising interest rates and sharp declines in stock market made for a brutal investment environment. California retirement system lost $30 billion almost. And New Jersey and Illinois finished years in the red. So it's not looking really great right now. Like kind of propping up the system. You could go through the whole article. Seems more interesting to me rather than go through the whole article. It'd be interesting to like see this article. It's probably too small to see though. Watch it. That's a bunch of numbers. It's really small to see, and if I expand it, you wouldn't be able to see all the columns. But the article itself is in Politico. It's from December 28 of last year. So that's 3.5 hours of show, folks. It's already 10:39 here. Kelly's jumped in there. Working on a new video for YouTube, and it's a long one, so I've been busy with that. Hi, Kelly. You missed the show? Well, you can watch the replay. Watch the replay. Wish you were here earlier. I don't know, let's see how everything is going. Love you too. See how everything's going. Obviously I'll be here next week. So y'all out there, is there anything you wanted to cover that we didn't cover tonight, and anything you were discussing that I didn't see? Anything you didn't get covered tonight? Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I can open that from here. There are a couple of more things I wanted to do. So let's see. Okay. That's what I saw earlier today that had 2023 in it. Okay. So earlier when I saw 2023 DW, I got that confused that with SXSW 2023, which is the art and creativity festival, which probably has music on it, which I probably can't play. So, but that's what I was thinking of earlier that I thought I saw. So I just saw the number 2023 and the letter X in there, and thought that I was looking at something that had something to do with NASA. This computer, I can't do that, so I'll have to do it on the other computer. So let me put your chat up on this computer so I can see if you're chatting at me and saying something like you want my attention. Okay, where's that video from earlier today? So there was this short that I created today, and I wanted to show you this short. It is a clip from Hal Sparks' show, and you really should watch his show from Saturday, March 11th. And I do not know if I can restart it, so I'll probably have to play it more than once. But what he says is the revolution was the thought form that we can govern ourselves, not a war to maintain it. So he's addressing the issue that you have the MAGA saying, what we did on Jan 6 was just like the American Revolution. We should have been able to do that because we weren't doing anything different. And what he's saying is the revolution was the thought form that we can govern ourselves. It was the idea that the mother country, England, couldn't tell us what to do. Not the war itself. Everybody on the Republican side always points to the war itself and calls that the revolution.
The thought form that we can govern.
Hey, in the previous video, Hal Sparks tells you why Jan 6 didn't work. They didn't understand the revolution. So watch more of Hal Sparks. So if you find that on my K Auto TV YouTube channel, you'll find it as the latest video, and you see my mouse pointer. Maybe you can see it right here. Right down here, it says cut from Hal Sparks channel. If you're new to this show and you're not one of our friends, our sparklers, right down here where it says cut from Hal Sparks channel, just click on that. So by clicking on that, you'll go right to the video that it was cut from. You can rewind that video and you can start playing it. I should have put it on Freedom Speech and You, but when I created it, I was on my own channel, and I just created it on my own channel and just said, oh, well, I already created it. I'll leave it alone. So anyway, I just really liked this show from Saturday. I listened to it this morning. I've mastered it now, how to get it to keep the whole clip. And it's funny how I mastered it, because I was frustrated. I might as well show you this too as well. I was frustrated with Facebook this morning, and I can play that from there. Facebook was not doing something I wanted it to do this morning. Excuse me. So let me go to my channel. No, I can't show you that. I know, but anyway, I did a thing, and I figured out how to do another one of those YouTube shorts. But I just remembered I can't show it to you because it's music from a music video. So, but yeah, I figured out how to create the short and get the link that I wanted to the full link that YouTube will create as short. And if I had known how to do that, I would have got the whole clip with Hal saying the phrase instead of having to put the phrase up on the screen. So next time I create a clip, I'll be able to get the whole phrase. But yeah, I sat there and shuttled it just to get the phrase that I wanted. And then realized that it cut it shorter for whatever reason. It cut it to like just a few seconds. So apparently it just does that. So anyway, anyhow, that was our show for tonight. I hope you liked. I hope you subscribed if you're new here. I hope you come back next week to watch another episode. Next week would be the 19th. I'm not sure if we have any specific dates on the 19th. Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. is the next launch that is coming up. That's for certain, unless something stops it from going. That is NASA SpaceX Crew Resupply Mission 27 going to the International Space Station. It's an instantaneous launch, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That would be 7:30 Central if you're tuning in by the internet. For those of you in Pacific Time, that would be 5:30. For those of you converting from other time zones and relying on GMT, that would be 30 minutes after midnight. So officially at 30 minutes after midnight, it is March 15th or 15 March 2023. So it's 12:30 a.m., 15 March 2023, or it's 0030 if you're using military Zulu UTC time to convert to your time zone. So that's coming up. That is scheduled and guaranteed because to hit the ISS, it has to be launched a specific time. Relativity is assumed to be the 16th. It's assumed to be the 16th, but it's not confirmed to be the 16th. So relativity might launch on Thursday, might not confirmed. Only an estimate at this point. If it does go at the same time of day because it's a test article, and test articles don't have to go to specific places, they only have to go into orbit in order to test to go to orbit. Then it might launch between 1 and 4 p.m. on Thursday. That converting to GMT would be between 5 and 8 p.m. And converting to UTC would be between 1700 and 2000. And if you're trying to convert from Eastern time of 1 to 4, you'd go back an hour for Central time from noon to 3, and you'd go back 3 hours to 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in California time. If you're watching Relativity Space, RELATIVITYSPACE.com. That's how you can find them. Go to their website, click on it. You'll find the link, or you can find it. I might be able to share it on my Facebook page. I might be able to share it on the YouTube community. If I'm limited, I will share it on my Facebook group page and probably retweet it on my account. So look in there, look there and see, look for it. My main account on Twitter is KOTTOTV. Some people wouldn't give you their main account. They would just say, look at my account for this channel. But, you know, if I'm limited and I can only tweet one time and I don't have long time to retweet it a bunch of times, then you're going to want to look there. Otherwise, you're just going to look for it and get on Relativity Space. You're going to get on SpaceX. You're going to get on NASA. When you get on SpaceX and when you get on NASA, to help yourself get there quickly, when you're searching, put the @ symbol in front of NASA. Put the @ symbol in front of SpaceX, especially SpaceX on YouTube, because everybody out there is trying to mimic SpaceX, and they will name themselves something after SpaceX, or they will use SpaceX as their name. It won't be their handle, because only @SPACEX is SpaceX itself. Everything else is somebody else pretending to be SpaceX, and boy, they love to do that, because they know that if they pretend to be SpaceX, they can get people to go to their sites and view their content. And if their site is monetized for whatever reason, they can make money off you just looking at it. This channel is not monetized. I don't have enough viewers. I'm not monetized yet. I occasionally use things that come back as possible copyright. So I'd have to get to 100 viewers or whatever to be even monetized. I'm not even sure I want to be monetized. You know, I just like doing this for you, the viewers. I like doing it for the people who come here every week who enjoy the show. And that's why I do it. And I figure that I can present something that's interesting, and you can tell me what you want to talk about. And that's the fun of doing it. You know, there's plenty of people who have to do things. So anyway, I'm ready to conclude this show. I think that some people are ready to go. So thank you, Benny Loco, for coming. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to our mods. Whatever's going on, that's not beneficial, just ignore it. Because all those people do is boost the channel by their presence. Y'all have a great week. Y'all stay in touch if you have my contact information. Thank you, Casper. So, yeah, just come here again next week. You can see that I'm not in a big rush. I can tell you why, but then the trolls would know why, and the trolls don't need to know all my inner workings. But those of you who have my direct messages, you can ask me why. Okay? Is this an Iris goodbye? I don't know. I just felt like I was super relaxed tonight, and I just thought that I should share that with you, because every day our lives are filled with tension, and you have to have some enjoyment every once in a while to make it all worthwhile. And you people are my enjoyment. Thank you so much. I almost just cut the stream there, but I guess I'll give you the usual close so that you can keep talking to each other and say your goodbyes.